Chapter 71-68. Looking at Jiang Zhen's face full of admiration, Yang Tianzhao couldn't help but say, "The crux of the problem isn't here, okay?" Whether it was in the realm of chaos or the immortal realms, there were very few people who cultivated the power of darkness. Normally, it was almost impossible to encounter cultivators with this kind of elemental power. In fact, they only knew about this kind of power after various monsters appeared. However, two darkness attribute cultivators had appeared before him. Once this news spread out, it would be very difficult for them to establish themselves in the chaotic immortal realm. "Don't worry so much," Lu Jin said slowly. He didn't care what attributes the other party had. Since the other party had helped him a lot, he was grateful from the bottom of his heart. Boom! With an earth-shattering sound, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang were smashed into the mountain wall, forming two large pits. On the other side, the giant snake was also sent flying. The three of them had only sensed a warm, fishy smell assaulting their noses at that moment. Taking a closer look, they realized that it was fresh blood that had landed on their bodies. Fortunately, the blood was not Di Beichen's, but the giant snake's. Amazing! Jiang Zhen looked at the giant snake lying on the ground, gasping for breath. Deep admiration appeared in his eyes. "Let's go kill this guy." With a sharp sword in hand, Lu Jin approached the giant snake. Suddenly, another rumbling sound was heard. Hearing this voice, his movements also paused as he looked towards the distance in puzzlement. When he saw it clearly, his hair stood on end, and he couldn't help but shudder. Bailey Hongzhuang also noticed the movement on the other side. When they were fighting just now, she noticed that there was an aura slowly approaching their location. "Hey, big guy, it seems like your old enemy is here. We won't hold you up any longer." She turned to Di Beichen and said, "Let's go." Di Beichen grabbed the vines on the side, hugged Bailey Hongzhuang's slender waist, and quickly jumped down. "Let's go." After Lu Jin and the others regained their senses, they quickly descended, not daring to delay any longer. If they were noticed by that guy, it would be difficult for them to survive. "Bastard!" The giant snake roared, but it was immediately stopped by a familiar gaze. It wanted to chase after them, but it couldn't. The following process of descending was quite smooth. Perhaps it was because the commotion caused by the previous battle was too great. So many monsters had already hidden. After descending to a place where there were no vines, the group embedded the rope into the mountain rocks before continuing their descent. "Young Master D, Madam D, thank you so much for your help just now," Jiang Zhen said gratefully. "Don't take it to heart. You guys are really powerful. Heroes come from the young." This saying is absolutely true, Jiang Zhen said with a smile. Originally, he also felt that Di Beichen and Wang Zhong were very distant, but after this incident, he also felt that these two people were much easier to get along with than he thought. "There's no problem for us to go down now, but you'll have to rely on yourself to throw the rope when you come back." Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the rope in her hand. It was indeed not easy to climb up such a natural moat without a rope. Chapter 71-69. Yang Tianzhao was poisoned. "Actually, you guys are so strong. You didn't have to do so much for me. You could have just threatened me. Why go through so much trouble?" Lu Jin looked at the two of them curiously. Compared to fighting directly, Bailey Hongzhuang and Dihei's method was much more troublesome. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. "To make you do it willingly, huh?" Lu Jin was doubtful. He didn't believe her. "We don't know much about the situation in the heavenly moat. If you were forced to come here by us, it would be troublesome if you took the opportunity to use other methods. In comparison, it wouldn't be difficult to find the culprit. Otherwise, you wouldn't have the heart to come down when young Master Lu's life was in danger." She had discussed this with Dihei before. Fighting directly was the simplest method, but it would inevitably lead to more problems. Along the way, if the other party wanted to play tricks, they would be attacked from the front and back. Rather than that, it would be better to put in more effort. At least they wouldn't have to worry about anything when the time came. Hearing this, Lu Jin couldn't help but smile. "Don't worry, I won't harm you." The next day, they finally arrived at the bottom of the heavenly moat. "It feels good to be on solid ground." Jiang Zhen put away the rope. His face was full of joy. "It's pitch black all around. Xiaohei looked around. It was so dark that she couldn't even see her own fingers. She could only rely on her mental strength to understand the situation. The bottom of the heavenly moat is like this. There's no light at all. It will be like this for more than a month. Should we rest for a while or continue? Let's continue, Di Beichen said. At this moment, Jiang Jun exclaimed, Tianzhao, you're injured? Everyone turned to look at Yang Tianzhao. They had only fought with the giant snake once. Yang Tianzhao didn't participate in the battle. Logically speaking, he shouldn't be injured. I'm fine, Yang Tianzhao said. The skin on your hand is festering. Let's treat it first. Jiang Zhan said, we'll continue after you've treated your injuries. Okay, Yang Tianzhao responded faintly. Then he took out some medicinal powder and began to treat his injuries. Bailey Hongzhuang only took a quick glance and knew how he was injured. It was obvious that he was affected by the venom of the giant snake. However, she didn't expect Yang Tianzhao to remain silent from yesterday until now. If Jiang Zhen hadn't discovered it, they probably wouldn't have known. This snake venom is very powerful. Can you deal with it? Lu Jin noticed that Yang Tianzhao's face was a little pale and immediately became concerned. The reason Yang Tianzhao was a member of their team was because of his identity as a doctor. Many monsters were poisonous. If there was no doctor around, the risk would be greatly increased. Over the years, Yang Tianzhao had indeed helped them a lot. In the past, Yang Tianzhao had helped to treat all the poisonous creatures they had encountered. However, the strength of the giant snake they had encountered this time was the strongest they had encountered so far. They did not know if Yang Tianzhao could cure this poison. Don't worry, I'm fine. Yang Tianzhao gave a reassuring sentence, his eyes subconsciously sweeping over Bailey Hongzhuang's body, but she didn't even look at him. Master, can this guy really heal himself? Xiaohei was a little doubtful. Didn't he say that he's fine? End of chapter. Chapter 7170. Have you been to the immortal region? Maybe this guy is just trying to show off. Xiaohei pursed her lips. Judging from this guy's annoying personality, even if he was really injured, he wouldn't say anything. That's his business. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. She didn't have time to care about other people's business. Yang Tianzhao, they were not teammates. Instead, they were strangers who had to walk in the same team because of Lu Jin. While Yang Tianzhao was treating his injuries, Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Jin were paying attention to their surroundings. The naked, I was not very useful in this place. However, they could still see the grass and trees around them clearly with their spiritual power. However, the grass and trees here were all black. Even the blooming flowers were black. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced around and realized that there were many demons living here. Compared to the competition they had participated in, the number of demons here was even more shocking. Almost all the demons changed slightly when they noticed them. Bailey Hongzhuang's dark power surged out. In such an environment, the demons would not target her if she emitted dark power. Instead, they would treat her as one of their own. This was the greatest advantage that the power of darkness gave them. Young Master D, does anyone else know that you are of the dark element? Lu Jin walked to Di Beichen's side. There was a hint of curiosity between his brows. He explained, this element is very rare here, so I'm a little curious. Our friends all know, Di Beichen said calmly. I see. Lu Jin still had doubts in his heart. He only felt that if others knew about this, they would inevitably be targeted. Have you been to the immortal region? No. Di Beichen turned to look at him. Have you been there? Lu Jin nodded. Yes, I have. Then why did you stay here? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. The competition in the immortal realms is much more intense than in the realm of chaotic immortal. I found it very hard to live there, so I decided to leave. With my strength, there are many people who are stronger than me in the immortal realms. However, in the realm of chaos, I'm like a fish in water. Since it's all about life, why not find a more relaxing place? Lu Jin's expression was carefree. However, your cultivation talent is far above mine. You can go to the celestial realm to explore. Who knows, you might become famous figures there. After we come out of the crossing immortal region, we will go to the immortal region. Lu Jin saw that Di Beichun didn't look like he was joking. So he said, "That's a good idea, but we might still have a way to get in, but coming out. What are you going to do?" People from crossing Immortal Domain were not allowed to come out. This was something that everyone knew. Once the two of them went in, they would be considered as members of the crossing Immortal Domain. It would not be easy for them to come out. Let's take it one step at a time. I believe we'll find a way when the time comes. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. She didn't believe that there was a place where one couldn't come out after entering it. The Qing devil was trapped in the ancient battlefield for so many years. Didn't he come out in the end? The crossing Immortal Domain was indeed a special place, but as long as one could enter, he would definitely be able to come out. All right then. Lu Jin looked around. I believe you'll be lucky. While they were chatting, Yang Tianzhao's voice sounded. We can go now. End of chapter. Chapter 71. Hearing this, everyone walked forward. The surroundings were very quiet. Other than the slight, rustling sounds, everything was quiet. It was as if it was really night. However, everyone knew that it wasn't night. There seems to be a special substance here. Di Beichun looked around. He felt that there was a faint substance in the air, but when he tried to sense it carefully, it was as if there was nothing at all. Bailey Hongzhuang looked up. Her attention was focused on guarding against the demons in the surroundings. She didn't notice anything else. Beichun, your senses are really sharp. Lu Jin smiled. There is indeed an unknown substance here. It's usually hard to sense it when you've just arrived. What is it? Do you know why we have Jiangzhen in our team? Lu Jin looked at Jiangzhen. In terms of strength, he's not the strongest in the town. There are a few people who are stronger than him. However, he has one thing that no one can compare to. Di Beichun looked at Lu Jin and Jiangzhen. In his heart, he knew that Jiangzhen must have one of the indispensable abilities to go to the crossing Immortal Domain. This guy was born with a very strong sense of direction. We can't tell whether it's day or night here. In addition, the demons can change their direction at any time. There's also a special substance in the air. This substance can easily cause us to deviate from our direction. Even an expert in the elementary immortal realm will unknowingly deviate from their direction after walking for a while. This deviation is very strange. It's only a small deviation, so it's impossible to feel. After walking for half a month, I'm afraid that even we won't know where we are. With Jiangzhen here, we don't have to worry about this problem. Lu Jin patted Jiangzhen's shoulder. This guy is a guiding light. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang understood. Everyone in the team played an indispensable role. Jiangzhen's talent was indeed very useful in this place. Don't worry. I may not be useful in other places, but I can definitely lead the way. Jiangzhen patted his chest. Leave it to me. Then I'll have to trouble you. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. It was indeed not easy to travel to the crossing celestial domain. If it were any other ordinary cultivators, they would not have made so much preparation. Even if it was a team of beginning celestials, they would not be able to make heads or tails of it. Actually, the route we're taking is already the safest route to the crossing celestial domain. There are demon beasts or monsters stronger than the elementary celestial stage in other places. It's not an exaggeration to say that we'll definitely die. Jiangzhen's face was solemn. Other than us, there's no one else who would go to the immortal domain. They'd only be sending themselves to their deaths. But when you guys come back, I'm afraid it'll be more troublesome. His sense of direction was innate, and no external object could interrupt his keen intuition. We'll be careful. Bailey Hongzhuang felt Jiangzhen's good intentions, and her attitude was very gentle. This was indeed a problem for them in the past, but ever since they obtained the Sky Eye, it was no longer a problem. As long as they activated this divine ability, these things would not cause any hindrance. Looking at Di Beichun and Lu Jin's determined expressions, Jiangzhen understood that the two of them had made up their minds to enter the crossing celestial domain no matter what. Chapter 71-72. Along the way, the group didn't walk fast because they could be attacked by demons at any time. In this environment where the dark energy was extremely dense, the demons were much stronger than those they encountered outside. There were countless demons in the Radiant Sun realm, and even demons in the elementary immortal realm could be encountered every once in a while. What Lu Jin and the others had said earlier was not an exaggeration at all. In such an environment, it was impossible to walk fast. They wanted to fly, but they found that it was impossible to fly, so they could only walk step by step. Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichun were wrapped in dark energy, so no demons would take the initiative to attack them. It was quite easy for them to walk, but it wasn't the same for the other three. It was as if three different species had suddenly entered a group of beasts, and all the demons were staring at them. I didn't expect the dark attribute to have such a great advantage. Lu Jin looked at the two in surprise. Every year, the most troublesome thing was to be attacked by demons. He always thought that it was unavoidable. It wasn't until he saw Deep Beichun and Lu Jin-er's methods that he understood that cultivators with the dark attribute wouldn't be affected much here. If they were also of the dark attribute, then their speed would undoubtedly be much faster, and the risk would be greatly reduced. I'm also starting to envy the dark attribute. If the two of you weren't planning to leave, staying in our town would be perfect for you. Jiang Zhen's face was full of amazement. After a few days, his relationship with Di Beichun had become much closer, mainly because the two had helped him several times. Are you trying to make us stay? Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Jiang Zhen nodded. Of course. With the two of you here, my life is much more secure. Speaking of which, it's strange. In the past, although there were many demons on this path, most of them were in the Radiant Sun realm or below. We didn't encounter many demons in the elementary immortal realm. I don't know why, but we've only been walking for 3 days, and we've already encountered 3 guys in the elementary immortal realm. This isn't a good sign. Hearing this, Lu Jin's expression darkened. Since 2 years ago, the demons here have been getting stronger and stronger. If this continues, I'm afraid we won't be able to come here in the future. Their strength couldn't be compared to the demons. Fortunately, they had Di Beichun and Lu Jin with them. Otherwise, if it was just the 3 of them, the danger would be self-evident. If that's the case, won't the places that are already difficult to pass become even more difficult? Jiang Zhen's face paled. Lu Jin shook his head. There was a hint of worry in his voice. I don't know, but we have to be mentally prepared. Tianzhao, why are you walking further and further behind? Jiang Zhen noticed that Yang Tianzhao had unknowingly put some distance between them. This guy had been unwilling to talk to Di Beichun and Di Beichun. For the past 3 days, besides walking behind them, he had hardly spoken. Why is your face so pale? After Jiang Zhen walked over, he noticed that Yang Tianzhao's expression wasn't right. He immediately became anxious. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. Yang Tianzhao's voice was very weak. It was obvious that he was in a lot of pain. Jiang Zhen pulled his hand and removed the gauze. He immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. Chapter 71-73. The flesh on Yang Tianzhao's arm had festered and turned black. Even his bones could be seen. Oh my God! How did your wound become like this? If this continues, your arm will be crippled. Jiang Zhen looked at Yang Tianzhao agitatedly. Are you crazy? Why haven't you said anything? When Lu Jin heard the commotion, he rushed over as well. When he took a look, his expression turned ugly. Are your injuries that serious? Can't the poison be detoxified? Yang Tianzhao shook his head. That giant snake is too strong. Its venom is extremely poisonous. I've already used all the methods I can think of, but I can only control it to this point. Then what should we do? Jiang Zhen's heart sank. If this continues, you won't be able to keep your arm. Will your life be in danger? Lu Jin's expression darkened. From the looks of it, it wasn't just a question of whether or not he could keep his arm. Even his life might be in danger. Don't worry, it's fine. Yang Tianzhao waved his hand, a smile tugging at the corner of his lips. Since I've come out, I've already mentally prepared myself for danger. Lu Jin and Jiang Zhen looked at each other, and their expressions turned ugly when they saw how forced he was to say those words. It wasn't easy for them to form this small team. Now that Su Shan was dead, if something happened to Yang Tianzhao, then their business in the future. The next moment, Lu Jin couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. He knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were much better than Yang Tianzhao's. Yang Tianzhao couldn't do anything, but that didn't mean that Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't do anything. Mrs. D, I wonder if you can help? Yang Tianzhao saw that Lu Jin actually went to Bailey Hongzhuang for help. His expression became very complicated. Lu Jin, this, Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Yang Tianzhao, but didn't answer. Lu Jin also understood the problem. Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't a difficult person to get along with. She wasn't arrogant because of her talent. If Yang Tianzhao hadn't been against them, she would have already helped them. This could be seen from the time she treated Shun Xianglin. Tianzhao, don't throw a tantrum. Nothing is more important than your life. Lu Jin reminded. Jiangzhen nodded. Mrs. D's medical skills are superb, and she is a good person. From the beginning to the end, it was your bad attitude. You should apologize. Yang Tianzhao frowned, looking at the woman not far away, his eyes dark and gloomy. What are you thinking about? Isn't it because you feel that he's younger than you and his medical skills are better than yours, so you're not convinced? Lu Jin's tone also became stern. There's always someone better than you. If you can't even understand this, how much progress can you make? Yang Tianzhao looked at his hand and knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was his only hope. Madam D, I hope you can forgive me for offending you earlier, Yang Tianzhao said. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. And then, Yang Tianzhao was stunned. His face immediately darkened. I hope you can help. Bailey Hongzhuang turned her eyes. If it wasn't for Lu Jin, I wouldn't have helped you with your ashen face. Hearing this, Lu Jin and Jiang Zhen's faces showed a trace of joy. Since Bailey Hongzhuang said so, she must be very confident. Catch! Bailey Hongzhuang casually threw it. Yang Tianzhao hurriedly caught it. Looking down, he realized that it was a small box. Chapter 71-74. Yang Tianzhao opened the box and found a pill inside. Then, he heard Bailey Hongzhuang's voice. Antidote pill. Hearing this, he looked at the pill in his hand suspiciously. Of course, he knew about antidote pills. However, the poison in his body was not an ordinary poison. An ordinary antidote pill would not have any effect. In fact, when he realized that he could not detoxify the poison, he had already taken an antidote pill. However, the situation was still the same. Looking at the woman's cold back, he opened his mouth but did not say anything. Hurry up and eat it, Jiang Zhen hurriedly said. Don't think about it. Madam D's pills are of high quality. They can't be compared to the pills you bought in the past. Lu Jin saw Yang Tianzhao's hesitation and reminded him. Yang Tianzhao nodded and swallowed the pill. I hope so. After swallowing the pill, Yang Tianzhao paid attention to the condition of his body. He felt that there was no difference with the pills he had just taken. Bailey Hongzhuang did not even look at his wounds before giving him a pill. Perhaps she did not want to save him at all. Yet, he had been so subservient just now. He felt extremely embarrassed in his heart. Master, why does that guy still look unhappy? Xiao Hei tilted her head and noticed Yang Tianzhao's gloomy expression. She was puzzled. He probably doesn't believe that I will save him. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly. Her expression revealed a trace of playfulness. This guy must feel that he has lost face and will not be able to save his life. The antidote pill that Master refined is extremely effective. This guy really doesn't know what he is talking about. Xiao Hei was a little indignant. She knew very well that Master knew that they would encounter many poisonous creatures on this trip. Hence, she had specially refined some antidote pills. These antidote pills were not something that low-grade antidote pills could compare to. Their prices were also much higher. Why bother? Bailey Hongzhuang said casually. I'm just doing it for Lu Jin's sake. Xiao Hei nodded. That's true. Because Yang Tianzhao's injuries were more serious, everyone's speed slowed down. As soon as Bailey Hongzhuang saw a demon attack, she immediately went to meet it. Normally, she would not see any demons. Taking advantage of this opportunity, she could keep more blood demon crystals. Blood demon crystals were helpful in improving the effects of pills. If he were to buy them, he would have to spend a lot of money. In this place, he could get materials from anywhere. He just needed to spend a little more effort. Mrs. D, do you need blood demon crystals? After noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, Jiang Zhen could vaguely guess what was going on, because he found that Mrs. D actually took the initiative to attack monsters when there were no monsters attacking her. All the blood demon crystals were put into her Chinquin bag by her. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. This thing can be used as medicine. Hearing this, Jiang Zhen was stunned. This thing can be used as medicine? Yes, this is also the latest research direction of many alchemists. I didn't know that this thing could be used like this. I always thought that it was useless. Jiang Zhen chuckled mischievously. After busying himself for a while, he handed over a Chinquin bag. Madam D, this is for you. Bailey Hongzhuang took it and found that it was full of blood demon crystals. She was a little surprised. I can't accept this. Chapter 71-75. Madam D, please accept it. You've helped me several times along the way. I don't have much to repay you with, so please accept it as a token of my appreciation. Jiang Zhen took 2 steps back, putting some distance between himself and Bailey Hongzhuang. Obviously, he had made up his mind not to take it back. Inside are the blood demon crystals I've obtained over the past few years. These things are useless to me, but I thought they looked good, so I kept them. It's great that they're useful to you. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Okay, then I'll accept them. Thank you. You're welcome. I've really gained a lot this time. Yang Tianzhao looked at Jiang Zhen and Bailey Hongzhuang getting along so well. He couldn't help but lower his head, looking a little depressed. How are you? Lu Jin walked to Yang Tianzhao's side and asked. Still the same. Lu Jin raised Yang Tianzhao's hand and looked at it. His brows immediately relaxed. Madam D's medical skills are really extraordinary. You've already seen the results so quickly. Hearing this, Yang Tianzhao was a little startled and subconsciously looked at his hand. His eyes widened as he took a look at it. The black color on his flesh was gradually fading. Compared to the terrifying appearance before, the situation was obviously much better. How could this be? Yang Tianzhao rubbed his eyes. He didn't feel anything after taking it, so he subconsciously thought that the detoxification pill had no effect at all. However, everything in front of him clearly reminded him that not only was it effective, but it was also very effective. What do you mean? Lu Jin was speechless. Isn't it good that it's effective? Not only is your life saved, but your arm won't be crippled either. Don't treat young Master D and the others with the same attitude in the future. If it were an ordinary person, with your attitude, they wouldn't even care about you. Fortunately, they themselves are very magnanimous, so they didn't take these things to heart. Yang Tianzhao kept looking at his wound, shocked by the rapid change. Did you hear what I said? I understand. Yang Tianzhao's voice was low, and his expression gradually changed. He originally thought that this woman had no intention of saving him, but he didn't expect that to be the case. No matter what kind of dissatisfaction he had in the past, the other party was now his savior. Don't ever use that kind of attitude again. Otherwise, once they make a move, no one will be able to save you. Do you think I'm the kind of person who would treat my savior like that? Lu Jin couldn't help but laugh when he heard that. You finally figured it out. After Yang Tianzhao's poison was completely detoxified, everyone returned to their original speed. Battles filled every day. Fortunately, at their cultivation level, they were very energetic. We will soon reach that terrible place. Lu Jin looked ahead, a trace of worry appearing between his brows. Where are you talking about? Di Baichen asked. It's a swamp. The swamp isn't small, and there's a very shallow current on it. We could take a boat to get there. It's just that there are a lot of very terrifying insects there. Those insects gather in groups. Once infected, it's basically impossible to survive. What kind of insects are they? Those insects eat human bones and blood. They will eat your flesh and blood very quickly. We've seen this happen before. Chapter 71-76. Someone had appeared. The boat slowly sailed away, and everyone tried their best not to make any noise. Even the sound of their breathing was restrained. This area was not considered very large. The entire swamp was about 1,000 meters in diameter. As long as they did not alarm the poisonous insects, they could quickly leave this place. Unknowingly, the boat had rowed more than half the distance and they were not far from the other side of the swamp. However, everyone suddenly heard movement from behind them. "Look, they're over there." A voice came from behind them. Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and was surprised to see a few strangers behind them. "Why are there other people here?" Jiang Zhen's expression changed. All this time, except for a long time ago, they had never seen anyone else here. Damn it. Don't these people know how dangerous this place is? How dare they speak here? They're simply courting death. Lu Jin cursed, and his expression became extremely ugly. They were now in the middle of the swamp and were a few hundred meters away from the other side. Once the poisonous insects were awakened, they would definitely die. I think that person seems a little familiar. Yang Tianzhao stared at the figure behind them and tried his best to recall where he had seen him before. Suddenly, Yang Tianzhao's eyes lit up. "I remember now. I've seen Su Shan with that person before." Hearing this, Lu Jin also understood. In that case, Su Shan has already told this matter to others. Isn't this guy going too far? He clearly said that this matter could not be told to anyone else. He's obviously prepared for this. Anger appeared in Jiang Zhen's eyes, and he was extremely dissatisfied. Ever since Su Shan broke through the elementary celestial stage, he should have already planned to establish his own sect. Lu Jin's voice was low. Even if Su Shan did not know about the goo poison, he would still want to fight with him. Fortunately, we've already dealt with this guy. Otherwise, we would have been kept in the dark and would definitely be dead by the time we reached here. After the three of them understood the cause and effect of this, they felt a chill in their hearts. Su Shan was definitely planning to kill them here. Now it was not the time to think about this. We have to get there before the poisonous insects wake up, Di Baichen reminded. Now that the poisonous insects had not been awakened, if they did not take advantage of this opportunity to leave quickly, the other party did not even need to make a move, and they would lose their lives here. Yang Tianzhao and Jiang Zhen also understood the importance of this matter. These guys might be planning to deal with them as easily as blowing off dust. They immediately sped up. Only by reaching the other side would their chances of survival increase. "Let's hurry up and catch up to them." A man couldn't help but say when he saw Lu Jin and the others leaving quickly. "Why do we have to do it ourselves? We just need to let these poisonous insects do it. We can take revenge for Su Shan. From now on, this route will be completely in our hands." The other man had a vicious look on his face. "In the future, we will be the ones to prosper." The next moment, the man picked up a stone and threw it at a nearby tree. Damn it! Noticing this scene, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others shouted in their hearts, "Let's go." They had no time to care about the situation behind them. They only had a short time. If they could not leave this swamp, they would definitely die. In a chapter. Chapter 71-77. Isn't this too much? Other than Jiang Zhen and Lu He, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two were also paddling with all their might. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A soft sound rang out, and, as if resonating, a series of buzzing sounds rang out, causing Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest to shiver. Needless to say, those poisonous insects must have been alarmed. This bee-like sound made them feel an indescribable fear. Damn it, if I can survive today, I'll definitely kill these bastards. Jiang Zhen cursed. He had thought of many ways to die, but this was the one he didn't want to experience the most. "I'll go with you," Yang Tianzhao said. "Ah!" An earth-shattering scream rang out, and Xiao He quickly turned her head. She couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. This bastard deserves it. "Master!" That bastard threw a stone and attracted the attention of the poisonous insects. All of them are pouncing on him. As soon as Bailey Hongzhuang's spiritual power spread out, she noticed the black poisonous insects rushing out like a swarm of bees. The man was instantly wrapped in a dense black color, and in just a moment, he had turned into nothingness. "Run!" When the other cultivators saw this scene, their faces were also filled with horror. They hurriedly ran to the back. Such a scene was undoubtedly a nightmare for anyone who had experienced it before. "These guys really shot themselves in the foot," Xiao He said proudly. "Do you think we don't have to do anything and they'll all die?" "I don't think so." Jiang Zhen didn't stop moving his hands. Through his mental power, They could clearly sense the situation behind them even without looking back. These poisonous insects live near the swamp. As long as they leave a little, they won't be attacked by these insects. If we don't leave now, we'll be the next example. Yang Tianzhao and Lu He didn't say anything. The two of them were like madmen, and they were racing against time as they moved forward. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Hearing the sound behind them getting closer and closer, everyone's hair stood on end. Fortunately, with this short delay, they were only 10 meters away from the opposite shore. It's over. When a poisonous bug appeared in front of Jiang Zhen, he could only sigh in despair. Even if they were only a step away, as long as they were touched by these poisonous insects, they would definitely die. However, they were truly unwilling to die, just like that. Is there no way to stop this poisonous bug for a moment? Elemental energy gushed out from Di Beichen's body, forming a barrier that enveloped everyone. No, these fellows feed on elemental energy. Blocking them is completely useless, Yang Tianzhao said in despair. That doesn't seem to be the case. Bailey Hongzhuang looked suspiciously at the poisonous bugs in the air. After Beichen's elemental energy barrier appeared, these poisonous bugs seemed to be extremely afraid of something and actually maintained a certain distance from them. Why am I not dead yet? I can still talk. Jiang Zhen had already closed his eyes and waited for death. When the expected pain didn't appear, he opened his eyes. When he looked, he couldn't help but be dumbfounded. This is too much of a foul, right? You guys have really refreshed my understanding. Yang Tianzhao's lips twitched slightly. He was extremely speechless after surviving a disaster. End of chapter. Chapter 71-78. Daily face-slapping history. Lu Jin raised his head and looked at the black essence force floating in the air. He felt that this was an omnipotent treasure. They had never found a way to resist these poisonous insects. Basically, they would die the moment they woke up. However, Di Beichen only had to use his essence force to protect them. How could this simple essence force barrier guarantee their safety? If they had known this would happen, wouldn't they have been worried for nothing? Young Master D, I'm really convinced. Jiang Zhen didn't know what to say. This feeling was as if he had met an extremely difficult opponent, and the opponent had blown him away with a casual blow. Thinking back to their fearful expressions when they talked about this was simply a face-slapping history. They thought that this trip here would be extremely difficult. Who would have thought that these two fellows would be so relaxed and happy? As for their initial worry that the two of them would drag them down, it had long been thrown out of their minds. They wouldn't drag them down at all. The ones who would be dragging them down were them. Di Beichen was also a little surprised by this situation. However, he understood that the dark element was indeed very helpful in such an environment. It was no wonder that every type of elemental cultivator liked to live in a place with relatively dense elemental energy. This was because they would be able to obtain benefits that others would never be able to obtain. We can rest assured now. Let's go ashore. Hearing this, Lu Jin and the rest didn't stay in a daze any longer. They sped up and reached the opposite shore. It wasn't until they had walked some distance away and were certain that the poisonous insects wouldn't affect them that they stopped. Young Master D, you've saved all of our lives with this move. Lu Jin sighed as he looked at Di Beichen. If he hadn't helped them just now, they would all be dead by now. Di Beichen smiled faintly. I didn't do anything. Heavens, I'm really envious of dark elemental cultivators. This place is simply made for you. With you guys around, I feel that there won't be any danger along the way. Jiang Zhen was shocked, but also relieved. This feeling of relief had never appeared in the heavenly moat before. This time, he truly felt it. Lu Jin nodded. I think that perhaps you don't even need us to lead the way. With your abilities, I'm sure you'll be able to reach the crossing celestial region no matter where you go. Not to mention that they were taking care of Di Beichen. The truth was that the other party was taking care of them. I didn't expect the power of darkness to have such an effect, but this way will be much safer. Di Beichen's expression was carefree as his gaze landed on the densely packed poisonous insects on the tree. The moment he unleashed his essence energy, he clearly felt the fear of these poisonous bugs. He didn't know how he was so sure, but this thought had indeed entered his mind. Scared? Even if they were of the same dark attribute, these poisonous insects shouldn't be afraid. Beichen, what are you thinking about? Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Di Beichun. Nothing. Di Beichun shook his head. I'm just wondering if those guys will come over. If those bastards dare to come over, I'll definitely beat them to death. Jiang Zhen was indignant. He almost lost his life just now because of those bastards. End of chapter. Chapter 71-79. Find a chance to deal with them. The cultivators were in disbelief when they realized that Lu Jin and the rest were still alive. They had no idea what the problem was. What's going on? Why aren't they dead? That's not what Sushin told us. He said that as long as we alert the poisonous bugs, they'll definitely die. That kid is weird. He actually has a way to make the bugs afraid. What do we do now? The cultivators stood there and looked at each other. The business with the crossing immortal domain was a lucrative opportunity. They had been thinking about it for a long time, but they never had the chance. Now that the opportunity was right in front of them, as long as they could get rid of these guys, the business would fall into their hands. They couldn't give up on such a huge temptation. I don't think they'll come over for the time being. Lu Jin looked at the cultivators gathered on the other side of the swamp. They knew that they were still here, so they wouldn't dare to come over. That's true. They're afraid of death too. Yang Tianzhao nodded. But once we leave, they might take the opportunity to come over. What do we do now? Jiang Zhen was speechless. Are we just going to stay here and waste time with them? If they didn't leave, the other party wouldn't move. If they left, the other party would definitely come over. There was no solution. Ignore them. Let's continue forward. As long as they come over, we'll definitely meet them again. Di Beichun said slowly. Since the other party had decided to get involved, they wouldn't give up so easily. Lu Jin and the manager of the crossing immortal domain had agreed on a time limit. They couldn't stay here for too long. That's right. Lu Jin nodded. I don't think Su Shun had the time to tell them about young Master D and young Master D's strength. Although they have more people than us, they might not be a match for us. Let's go first. When they catch up, we'll take action. Jiang Zhen and Yang Tianzhao didn't have any objections. This was the only way now. No matter what, we have to get rid of these guys. Otherwise, we'll have endless trouble along the way. Yang Tianzhao emphasized the importance of this. There were many dangerous places along the way. They had to be careful. If there were people deliberately sabotaging them, they would undoubtedly be in more danger. Don't worry. Don't tell me we don't have a chance to deal with them along the way. Lu Jin sneered. I just didn't expect Su Shun to have prepared so much. Now that I think about it, Su Shun is really scary. He has long wanted to kill all of us. In this way, his family will be rich. Jiang Zhen's expression also darkened as he looked at Lu Jin with some pity. He only chose to make a move on your family first. Once something happens to you, Tianzhao and I will be his next targets. It's best that you investigate this matter thoroughly after you go back, in case you missed anything else. Otherwise, you will be in danger, Bailey Hongzhuang reminded them. Thank you for your concern. Lu Jin thanked him. The truth was just as they had expected. After they left, those people only waited for a few days. After confirming that Lu Jin and the others had really left and were not pretending to leave, they began to cross the swamp. According to the method Su Shun had told them before, they got through it safely. End of chapter. Chapter 71-80. Along the way, everyone cut through the thistles and thorns. However, their luck wasn't bad. For the time being, they didn't encounter any extremely strong demons, so they passed through peacefully. They had also carefully paid attention to the movements behind them, but there seemed to be some distance between them and those guys, so there was no movement at all. Roar! A loud and clear beast roar resounded. Hearing this sound, everyone couldn't help but stop in their tracks, not daring to make any noise. This beast roar caused everyone to tremble in fear. A terrifying power was emitted from this roar, causing everyone's heart to palpitate. What kind of monster is this? Isn't this sound too shocking? Jiang Zhen looked in the direction of the roar in horror. This roar almost made him lose control of his body and fall to the ground. He had thought that the giant snake he had encountered before was already terrifying enough. However, it was on a completely different level compared to this monster that was making a sound. He was almost certain that this demon could casually slap the huge snake to death with a single slap. What kind of luck do we have this time? Yang Tianzhao was also speechless. They had never encountered such a monstrous beast before. Such terrifying power made people feel fear from the bottom of their hearts. Even he couldn't help but want to surrender. This kind of monster was definitely an overlord. It was an existence that they had never come into contact with before. Be careful. Don't move. We have to think of a way to go around it. Lu Jin cautiously sized up his surroundings. Facing such an overlord-class existence, they had no other choice but to take a detour. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other. Their hearts were also filled with shock. Such a terrifying fluctuation was indeed a terrifying existence. Even with their strength, it was impossible for them to contend against such a terrifying existence. It could even be said that they did not even have the will to fight against such a terrifying existence. Beichun, don't you think this voice sounds familiar? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. Vaguely, she felt as if she had heard such a beast's roar somewhere. Although the roars of the demonic beasts were very similar, there were still some differences. With such a shocking voice, it was inevitable that he would have a certain impression. I also feel like I've heard it somewhere before. Di Beichun nodded. His eyebrows showed that he was deep in thought. He then said, "We've never been to this place before. Maybe it's just the same kind." Even if they had heard it before, it was definitely not the same monster. I remember now. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. Do you still remember the demonic beast we encountered when we were comprehending the tablet? The strength of that demonic beast was extremely terrifying. Furthermore, it had helped them take care of their opponent. This left a very deep impression on her. Di Beichun also remembered. Indeed, their voices are very similar. I didn't expect that we would have such an affinity with this kind of demonic beast. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Last time, that guy helped us solve some problems. Maybe this time, that big guy will help us solve those guys behind us. Hearing this, Jiangjin couldn't help but laugh. Mrs. D, your thoughts are really beautiful. It's good enough that we don't get killed by this guy. You're still hoping that it can help us solve those behind us. Haha. You have to be optimistic. Maybe a miracle will happen. Bailey Hongzhuang joked. The originally tense and oppressive atmosphere suddenly relaxed a little. Everyone realized that after hearing the roar, they didn't see the demonic beast location. Chapter 7181. Had they gone mad? The demonic beast's voice came from that direction. Why can't we see it? We can only hear its voice. Bailey Hongzhuang looked into the distance. She wanted to see what kind of beast it was. Back then, it was this beast that ate Jiang Haiyan. Jiang Haiyan didn't even have a chance to resist. She really didn't know what kind of beast it was. Yang Tianzhao looked into the distance and seemed to have thought of something. He turned to look at Lu Jin and Jiang Zhen. Do you guys remember that place? I remember now. There was a black hole there. Lu Jin immediately recalled. We once passed by that place. There was a cave entrance there, and it was pitch black inside. We tried to use our spiritual power to sense it, but we found that our spiritual power couldn't extend very far inside, so we didn't dare to go in to see what was going on. However, we didn't hear any movement inside. This was the first time we heard this beast's roar. Jiang Zhen shrunk his neck. It's a good thing we didn't go in before. Otherwise, we would have become food in the beast's stomach. That's true. Di Beichun looked into the distance. He didn't know why, but he felt as if there was some kind of power that was attracting him. Beichun, what are you doing? Bailey Hongzhuang noticed Di Beichun approaching the cave step by step and couldn't help but ask. Di Beichun stopped and looked in front. Hongzhuang. I feel that there's an inexplicable attraction to me. I want to take a look. Young Master D, have you gone mad? Jiang Zhen was dumbfounded. They couldn't even withstand a single blow from this beast. If they went in, wouldn't it be the same as sending themselves to their deaths? Young Master D, please don't be rash. That kind of beast isn't something we can deal with. Lu Jin hurriedly said. He also didn't understand why young Master D would have such a crazy idea out of nowhere. However, no matter how much they tried to persuade him, Di Beichun seemed to have made up his mind. He had no intention of changing his mind. Hong Zhuang, I want to go and take a look. Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hong Zhuang seriously. This kind of calling made him feel a sense of familiarity, as if he didn't know when he had been in contact with all of this. Could it be an illusion? Bailey Hong Zhuang asked. Some demonic beasts had the power to confuse people and use it to lure people or demonic beasts to become their food. Di Beichen shook his head. I've confirmed that it's not an illusion. Bailey Hong Zhuang also confirmed it. After confirming that it was indeed not an illusion, she nodded her head. Okay. Madam D, young Master D is crazy. Why are you going crazy with him? Jiang Zhen looked at Bailey Hong Zhuang in astonishment. Shouldn't she be thinking of ways to stop Di Beichen? He has his own judgment. I believe in him. Bailey Hong Zhuang's expression was calm. She had always believed in Di Beichen's judgment. No one knew what was in the cave. It could be dangerous, but it could also be an opportunity. Seeing Di Beichen and Jiang Zhen approaching, Lu Jin and the other two looked at each other. In the end, they helplessly followed. Be careful. Don't be careless. Lu Jin warned. Yang Tianzhao was also speechless. He didn't understand what they were planning to do. End of chapter. Chapter 7182. As they got closer and closer to the cave entrance, Di Beichen felt that the suction force was getting stronger and stronger, making him want to go in unconsciously. Finally, they arrived at the entrance of the cave. The entrance of the cave wasn't small. Even here, it was very conspicuous. Are we really going in? Jiang Zhen looked at the cave entrance hesitantly. He didn't want to go in from the bottom of his heart. Di Beichen and I will go in and take a look. You guys have to be careful here. Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled. They were husband and wife. Naturally, they couldn't let others take the risk with them. Hearing this, Jiang Zhen and the other two looked at each other and didn't object. Then you guys be careful. Di Beichen and Bailey Hong Zhuang immediately walked into the cave together. However, something surprising happened. Di Beichen successfully walked into the cave, but Bailey Hong Zhuang was blocked by an inexplicable force. What's going on? Bailey Hong Zhuang tried to enter the cave, but found that the inexplicable force was very strong. She couldn't break it at all. Lu Jin and the others were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. They all tried and found that they couldn't enter. This is really strange. Lu Jin looked at the invisible restriction in puzzlement. Young Master D, maybe you're the destined person of this cave. If the thing inside was really to lure everyone in, it wouldn't only let one person pass. Under such circumstances, it often meant that it was an opportunity. I'll go in and take a look. Di Beichen turned his head, a trace of firmness in his expression. Be careful. Bailey Hong Zhuang warned and dismissed the idea of going in. This kind of situation had happened before. Beichen was the dark saint. Maybe there was some inheritance left for him. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but remember what Bai Yunjiao told her. She didn't obtain all the inheritance. The remaining inheritance could only be found in the immortal domain. The situation that Beichen was facing now was perhaps that he had accidentally found the location of the inheritance. Bailey Hong Zhuang sat on the ground and began to cultivate after realizing that she did not hear any movement from inside. The remaining 3 people looked at each other and finally sat down one after another. Speaking of which, it's strange that there aren't any monsters near this cave. Jiang Zhen was pleasantly surprised when he realized that they didn't have to worry about being attacked by demons. That's because the thing inside is too strong, so other monsters don't dare to come to this area, Yang Tianzhao said. By the way, have you fully recovered from your injuries? Jiang Zhen asked with concern. Yang Tianzhao waved his hand and subconsciously looked at Bailey Hong Zhuang. She has recovered. That's good. Lu Jin nodded. Do you know what to do in the future? Got it. You're so troublesome. Yang Tianzhao waved his hand, speechless. We're going to wait here for Beichen. We'll also wait for those guys. If possible, it's best to get rid of these tails as soon as possible. Lu Jin looked behind him. If Su Shan had told these people all the routes, then they would have probably passed through this path. Before they arrived, it was best for them to get rid of all these troubles to avoid complications. Those stewards of the crossing immortal domain are not easy to deal with. If other people appear, they might take the opportunity to raise the price. That would be terrible. Chapter 7183. Have you forgotten about Bao Bao? Jiangjin frowned. Although they had done business with the stewards of the crossing immortal domain many times, those fellows only cared about profits. Even after such a long time, their relationship was purely based on profits. They were not reliable at all. Let's be more discreet and try not to be noticed by them, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Although these fellows are more careful and their journey is a few days slower than ours, we just have to wait. We'll meet them sooner or later. You're right. We just have to wait. Yang Tianze could not help but look at the dark cave. We do business at this time every year. I wonder how long young Master D will be staying here. Hearing this, everyone looked at each other. No one could give a definite answer. If Di Beichun did not come out by then, they might miss this opportunity. Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a while and could not make a decision. He might come out very soon. Everyone nodded on the surface, but their hearts were pounding. If there was really an inheritance inside, it would be impossible for him to come out in such a short time. After Di Beichun entered the cave, he realized that the path was very narrow. There were uneven mountain walls all around. Walking in this path, he could only hear his own footsteps. Other than that, there was no other movement. He walked forward step by step. His footsteps were firm and fast. He vaguely felt that there was no threat to him here. Hence, he did not walk too carefully. It wasn't until the familiar feeling got closer and closer that he said, "Stop pretending to be mysterious. Come out." Roar. That familiar beast roar sounded again. It was like a gust of wind whistling. Di Beichun's sleeves fluttered in the wind. It was clearly a sound that made people's hearts break, but he did not feel the slightest bit of panic. On the contrary, he seemed to understand the meaning of this beast roar. Roar, "Master, it's me." Di Beichun raised his good-looking eyebrows. There was a trace of doubt in his deep eyes. "I don't think I know you." Roar, "Master, how could you forget about me?" "Oh, Bao Bao." Di Beichun's lips twitched slightly. He was sure that he absolutely did not know this guy. Not to mention, this voice alone was completely unrelated to these two words. Roar, "I'm really Bao Bao." Roar, sob, sob, sob. Di Beichun's vision was still pitch black. He could not see the other party's figure clearly, but he could roughly sense how terrifying this fellow was. However, such a frightening big guy was actually acting cute in front of him. What was this? "Since you said that I'm your master, you should come out and let me see you, right? Bao Bao. Bao Bao, Bao Bao's Bao Bao, Bao Bao's S Bao Bao. Then where is your real body? Bao Bao, Bao Bao's Bao Bao." Di Beichun. "So the demonic beast I encountered in the comprehension steel was you?" Roar, "It was Bao Bao." Di Beichun sweated. He did not expect Hongzhuang's prediction to be true. "You mean your real body isn't here? I can only find you if I go to the Bao Bao." "Master, this lousy immortal realm's Bao Bao is a little strong. Until now, I have not been able to pass through this layer of Bao Bao's Bao Bao. I can only communicate with you using my Bao Bao under certain circumstances. But don't worry, I will continue to work hard." End of chapter. Chapter 7184. Little Cutie's name. "As long as I can pass through this barrier, I will appear beside Master." "Master, as long as you keep this, I will appear one day. Don't worry, I'll work hard." Di Beichun listened to Bao Bao's explanation, but he still didn't fully understand. He knew that this guy's real body wasn't here, and he probably wouldn't be able to appear in front of him for the time being. However, he would definitely come looking for him one day. However, he had no idea where this so-called baby came from, and why did it recognize him as its master? "Why don't I remember you? Did you make a mistake?" Di Beichun asked. Roar, sob, sob, sob. There was no way he would admit his mistake. "Can you stop crying first?" Roar, "No." Roar. I knew that Master had just forgotten a lot of things in the past, but it didn't matter. As long as the seal was broken, Master would definitely remember. By then, you would know how much you like this baby. Di Beichun fell into deep thought. Ever since he unlocked the inheritance of his family, he felt that there were many strange things that could not be explained. Now, this scene was even more strange, but he felt that such a powerful demonic beast should not have mistaken him for someone else. Could it be that he had really forgotten something? However, He had never lost his memory since he was a child. He had never been to the realm of chaotic immortals. There was no way he could explain this. Can you tell me who I am? Roar. Master, I can't say that. Why? Roar. This is what Master instructed me to do in the past. Then can you change your name? Roar. She really liked the cute name Bao Bao. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at the cave from time to time. Ever since Di Beichan went in, it was quiet, as if no one had entered at all. No matter how hard they tried, their mental energy was unable to extend in the slightest, and they were unable to detect the situation inside. Look, there they are. Their team seems to be missing a person. Could it be that they lost their lives? Did you notice? They seem to be guarding the cave. Could there be some treasure in the cave? The cultivators who followed him looked at the cave in the distance, and a covetous glint appeared in their eyes. They clearly knew how important the deal with the crossing immortal domain was to Lu Jin and the others. There was definitely something fishy about the fact that they were guarding a cave at this time. In my opinion, that person must have entered the cave. As for the others, they must be guarding against us. Then what should we do? We can't let them have the good stuff. In my opinion, we should take this opportunity to rush in. Bailey Hongzhuang had already noticed the cultivators behind them when they first appeared. After taking a closer look, she realized that after one of them had died, there were still 9 of them left. This number was undoubtedly more than theirs. They roughly sensed their cultivation. Fortunately, the other party was only an expert in the elementary celestial stage, so they didn't feel any pressure. Come to think of it, Su Shan was only prepared to deal with Lu Jin. He didn't expect that she and Beichin would appear here, so there was a mistake. Lu Jin stood up and looked coldly at the 9 people behind him. Since you're already here, why are you hiding? Hearing this, the 9 people behind him also walked over in an imposing manner, completely fearless. End of chapter. Chapter 7185. Lu Jin, you've got guts. There's only 4 of you, but you're so confident. The man in the lead looked at Lu Jin mockingly, but there was a trace of viciousness in his eyes. Do you think that by killing Su Shun, you can occupy this line and take the spirit-devouring stone for yourself? Lu Jin sneered. I think you're the ones who have this idea, aren't you? Cut the crap. Today, it's either you die or I live. You've been thinking about this for a long time, haven't you? Lu Jin narrowed his eyes. When he thought about how Su Shan had done so many things behind their backs, the anger in his heart couldn't be contained. How straightforward. The man chuckled. However, if you want to use this method to stall for time, you can't fool us. Hearing this, Lu Jin and the others couldn't help but be stunned. They didn't know what this guy meant. However, the other party's speed was very fast. In almost an instant, he rushed directly toward the cave. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others didn't expect that these guys' goal was actually this cave. However, after noticing the other party's actions, they didn't intend to stop them. This was because apart from Beichan, no one else could enter this layer of restriction. This group of idiots. Yang Tianzhao rolled his eyes. You can't enter at all. Jiangjin sneered. After hearing this, the man was momentarily stunned. However, he didn't stop walking. Instead, he rushed over unwillingly. Just when Bailey Hongzhuang and the others thought that the man would be repelled by a huge force, they were surprised to find that the man had actually rushed in directly. What's going on? Jiangjun was dumbfounded. They had clearly tried before. Apart from Beichan, everyone else had been blocked outside. However, this guy had actually gone in now. Could it be that this guy is also one of the chosen ones? Yang Tianzhao was also a little confused. He couldn't help but feel regret in his heart. If they had known this would happen, they wouldn't have been careless. Instead, they should have stopped the man directly. That way, Beichin wouldn't have one more competitor. You're quite smart. You want to use this method to deceive us, but you still failed. The man's laughter came from inside, full of mockery. Immediately after, they noticed that not only did the man in the lead enter, but the other cultivators behind him also followed him in. If only one person went in, it might be because he also met the conditions to enter. However, if so many people went in, then the situation was a little strange. Let's go take a look too. Bailey Hongzhuang quickly rushed to the entrance of the cave. She wanted to see where the problem was. Most importantly, Bei-Chen was the only one in the cave. They had to go in. As she approached the entrance of the cave, she realized that the restriction had disappeared at some point in time, and she was able to enter it easily. "We can go in now," Bailey Hongzhuang said in disbelief. As soon as he said this, everyone rushed in without hesitation. "Hurry up, don't let them affect young Master D." Lu Jin pushed his speed to the limit and quickly rushed in. Ta-ta! The dense sound of footsteps spread out in the tunnel. The man in the lead also rushed in with the fastest speed. No matter what kind of treasure it was, they would not let it go. Chapter 7186. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three sped up, wanting to stop the others before they could affect Di-Chen. However, the other party's speed was also extremely fast. In addition, they had to be on guard against the dangers that could appear at any time, so they couldn't catch up to them. "I want to see what treasures there are here that you guys are so concerned about." The leader's eyes flashed with indescribable excitement. He had been looking forward to the day when he could go to the crossing immortal domain for a long time. Now that the opportunity had finally arrived, he also wanted to know what was there. "There are no treasures in here, only a very fierce monster. Don't blame me for not warning you. You won't even be able to keep your life when the time comes," Lu Jin shouted coldly. Hearing this, the man chuckled. "I didn't know you were so good at making up stories." "We didn't make up stories. Everything we said is the truth," Jiang Zhen emphasized. "If that's the case, aren't you guys crazy to still come in?" The man chuckled. "Don't tell me you guys are so concerned about me that you don't want me to get hurt. So you came here specially? I can't be bothered to talk nonsense with you." Yang Tianzhao's face was gloomy. In his eyes, this guy was a complete scoundrel. He didn't want to say anything else. Bei-Chen couldn't help but frown when he heard the commotion outside. "You removed the restriction?" Roar. Bao Bao had found its master. Someone else came in. "You won't be affected, right?" Bei-Chen looked at the black flame-like imprint on his hand. According to Bao Bao, as long as it could break through this layer of restriction, it would appear in front of him through this imprint. Roar. "Master, you underestimate me too much." "That's good." Bei-Chen felt a little relieved. He wasn't afraid of the other party's sudden appearance, but he didn't want them to affect Bao Bao. Although he wasn't sure if the person this guy was looking for was really him, based on his solemn expression, perhaps he wasn't wrong. Bei-Chen stood in place and looked at the group of cultivators rushing over from behind. He frowned slightly, but after noticing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others who were following closely behind, his brows relaxed. Bei-Chen. Bailey Hongzhuang heaved a sigh of relief when she noticed that Bei-Chen was safe and sound. It seemed that Bei-Chen was not affected by the attack. "Brat, hand over the treasure you obtained." The man looked coldly at Bei-Chen. There was a trace of annoyance in his eyes. They were still a step too late. "What treasure?" Bei-Chen's expression was cold. "Stop pretending in front of me. Hurry up and hand it over." "There are no treasures here, only a demonic beast. Do you want it?" The man was a little surprised. Lu Jin had said the same thing before, and now Bei-Chen had also said the same thing. It seemed that these guys had already prepared their speech before coming in. "Stop bluffing. No one will believe such words." The man's face darkened. "If there's only one demonic beast, are you here to die?" "No. Hurry up and hand it over." Roar. Just when a man's aura was high, an earth-shattering roar of a beast suddenly rang out. The pressure of this roar directly crushed the man. In an instant, the man felt a terrifying aura enveloping him. He was so scared that he knelt on the ground. Chapter 7187. The sudden sound startled everyone present. No one had ever thought that there would be a demonic beast here. Moreover, it was a demonic beast with such terrifying strength. Although they were scared out of their wits, compared to the man who had completely endured the pressure of the demonic beast, at least they weren't in such a sorry state. "Wu Qing, get up quickly." One of the cultivators hurriedly helped the man kneeling on the ground up. It was too embarrassing to be in such a state in front of Lu Jin and the others. Wu Qing also felt extremely embarrassed and hurriedly stood up. Roar. However, another demonic beast roar sounded, and Wu Qing, who had just stood up, almost subconsciously knelt down again. Everyone, when Bailey Hongzhuang saw this scene, she couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. It seemed that Beichen was getting along well with this demonic beast. Even though she didn't know what the demonic beast's roar meant, she understood that with this man's cultivation, if it was just a roar, it wouldn't make him kneel on the ground. The reason why it was like this was most likely because the demonic beast's pressure was all directed at him. Roar. Master, isn't this guy too useless? Bao Bao was speechless as he looked at the guy in front of him who didn't have the slightest bit of manliness. This kind of guy actually wanted Master to hand him over? If its real body was here, wouldn't it have eaten all of these fellows? Deep Beichen nodded slightly. He has always been a good-looking but useless guy. Wu Qing didn't understand what this roar meant, but after seeing Di Beichen's nonchalant look, he understood that this situation must have something to do with this man in front of him. Stinking brat. What the hell are you doing? Wu Qing finally stood up with the help of others. His face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He had never been so humiliated in his life. As the only elementary immortal expert in the group, his position had always been at the top. But now, he had become a joke. Although these guys didn't say anything on the surface, he could still see the unintentional smile in their eyes. Humiliation. Wu Qing glared at Deep Beichen with eyes full of resentment. The reason he was in such a situation was all because of this guy. Didn't I already remind you that there is nothing here except for a demonic beast? There was a faint smile on his godlike handsome face. It was as warm as a spring breeze, but in Wu Qing's eyes, it was filled with naked mockery. You bastard. You're trying to scare me with this guy. Wu Qing looked around. Although it was all dark here, he took advantage of this time to scan the situation. He was certain that there was not a single demonic beast here. As for where this beast roar came from, he had no idea. I'm scaring you? Deep Beichen raised his eyebrows. So what? Wu Qing, I thought you had a lot of courage. After all this time, you only have so little courage. You still dare to fight with us here? Isn't it too funny? Jiang Zhen couldn't help but laugh. Fortunately, the demonic beast didn't use its full strength. Otherwise, wouldn't you be so scared that you'd wet your pants? Chapter 7188. I'm not the only one who saw this. Even if you want to kill me, it's useless. There are so many people here. This incident left such a deep impression that I'm sure no one will forget it easily. Jiang Zhen looked at Yang Tianzhao with a smile. What do you think? Am I right? This is the first time I've seen someone kneel down so easily. The demonic beast hasn't even shown its true form, and you're already so scared. I told you not to come in earlier, but you didn't listen. TSK. Yang Tianzhao sighed and shook his head. His eyes were full of ridicule. Bastard! I'm going to kill you all. Wu Qing, who was already angry from embarrassment, couldn't hold back the anger in his heart after hearing everyone's ridicule. He turned around and pounced on Jiang Zhen. Today, I'm going to kill all of you here. Io, do you have to be so angry? You can't even aim properly. Jiang Zhen's figure flashed and dodged the attack. With Wu Qing's strength, he was naturally no match for him. However, this guy was obviously mad with anger. Even his strength was affected. Don't try to fool me. If there really is a demonic beast, then let it show itself. Do you think we're all idiots? The other cultivators nodded in agreement. That's right. There are no demonic beasts here at all. Speaking of which, it's strange. Where did this beast roar come from? Could it be that this guy has some kind of treasure? I've heard that some rare treasures have this kind of special ability. Maybe this guy got his treasure from this kind of treasure. As soon as these words came out, Wu Qing and the others' eyes lit up. If all of this was true, then if they could snatch this thing, then they would have one more life-saving move in the future. After all, even Wu Qing could only kneel and beg for mercy under such pressure. The other cultivators didn't need to be said. Lu Jin and the others couldn't help but worry. In fact, they didn't know what happened after Di Beichen came in. Maybe these guys were telling the truth. They had been in here for so long and had already confirmed that there were no demonic beasts here. In comparison, the sudden beast roar was indeed a little strange. This guy said you're magic treasure. Di Beichen looked at the black totem in his hand with an amused expression. Roar. Bao Bao wasn't a magic treasure. Bao Bao was also enraged. It was a first-rate holy beast, all right? These idiots actually treated it as a magical treasure. This was simply an insult. Roar. Master, can I eat this guy? Di Beichun raised his eyebrows. Are you sure you want to eat it? Roar, although this guy didn't look very pleasing to the eye and didn't taste very good, I still wanted to twist off this guy's head. Everyone's expression became very strange when they saw the beast roar every time Di Beichun spoke. Could it be that there really was a demonic beast here? Most importantly, from Di Beichun's words, they could vaguely discern some clues. Hey, stop pretending in front of me. Wu Qing looked at Di Beichun doubtfully. If all of this was true, he wouldn't believe it at all. But if all of this was fake, then this guy's acting was too good, right? If it's really here, then let it out. Chapter 7189. Are you sure? Di Beichun looked at Wu Qing calmly. Once it comes out, you won't be able to keep your head. Wu Qing was slightly taken aback. His heart was pounding. He still remembered the terrifying pressure from earlier very clearly. If this demonic beast really existed, he could guarantee that he was no match for this demonic beast. Make it come out if you can. After thinking for a moment, Wu Qing made up his mind. He did not believe that this fellow was telling the truth. This was because all of this was simply impossible. Everyone, attack. As long as these fellows are all dead, we'll be able to figure everything out. Wu Qing gave the order. Hearing this, the other cultivators stopped watching. The other party only had half of their number. It would not be a problem to get rid of these fellows. After seeing the other party's actions, the Yuan power in Lu Jin's body instantly surged out. His usually stern face did not show any signs of seriousness. He knew very well that as long as Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang were willing to attack, Wu Qing and the others were no match for them. Crack! Just as Wu Qing gave the order and was about to take action, everyone heard a clear voice. The moment they heard this sound, everyone instinctively turned their heads and looked towards the source of the sound. However, with one look, everyone's expressions became rather strange. Wu Qing, who had been so aggressive earlier, had his neck bitten off in an instant. A master at the elementary celestial stage had no power to resist at all. From the head that rolled on the ground, one could see his horrified expression. However, he did not even have the time to make sound. Everyone's eyes fell on Di Beichun. He said calmly, I've already warned you before, but you didn't believe me. The group of cultivators that Wu Qing had brought looked around vigilantly. Their faces turned pale almost instantly. Wu Qing was the most powerful cultivator in their group. Now, even Wu Qing had lost his life before he could even let out a cry. If it were them, the situation would be even worse. Let's go, someone shouted. The others did not dare to stay any longer as if their buttocks were on fire. They quickly ran outside. Since you're here, don't leave, Di Beichun said calmly. He then walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side with a gentle expression. Crack! Kacha! A clear sound rang out. The people who were originally clamoring all fell to the ground, following in Wu Qing's footsteps. Lu Jin originally wanted to attack, but the situation was different from what he had imagined. There was no need for him to make a move. Young Master Di, you're too amazing. Jiang Zhen swallowed a mouthful of saliva, his face filled with disbelief. How did you do it? Yang Tianzhao could not help but be dumbfounded. He could not see where the demonic beast was, but from the situation, he was sure that the demonic beast really existed. Could it be that Di Beichun had subdued the demonic beast? That's impossible. End of chapter. Chapter 7190. Lu Jin had the same conjecture in his mind, but as soon as he thought of it, he felt that it was impossible. Such a powerful demonic beast was not something they could tame. You tamed this demonic beast. Bailey Hongzhuang asked the question that everyone wanted to ask, but didn't dare to. That's right. Di Beichun nodded. Madam is really smart. How did you do it? Lu Jin asked subconsciously. I don't know either. Di Beichun shook his head. After I came in, this guy said that he was my contracted beast. Lu Jin, what kind of joke was this? The corner of Yang Tianzhao's mouth twitched uncontrollably. Taking in such a terrifying monster as a contract beast was something they didn't even dare to think about. But now, this contracted beast actually took the initiative to deliver itself to him. What kind of heaven-defying fortune was this? Young Master D, you my idol. Jiang Zhen rushed in front of Di Beichun and sized him up from head to toe. His eyes were filled with unspeakable admiration and appreciation. What are you doing? Seeing Jiang Zhen's strange behavior, Yang Tianzhao couldn't help but ask. I'm observing young Master D carefully. I want to know what's so special about this lucky star. Even such a good thing can happen to him. His luck is simply heaven-defying. I've always felt that my luck wasn't very good. If I take a closer look, I'll be able to understand where the problem lies. Yang Tianzhao rolled his eyes. I can tell you where the biggest problem is. Where? You're ugly. Jiang Zhen was stunned. He looked at Di Beichun's face and then at himself. He nodded thoughtfully. Your analysis is correct. I can't compare to Di Beichun, but it's hard for me to change in this aspect. Yang Tianzhao. Maybe this demonic beast is female, so when she saw young Master D's good looks, she was willing to become his contract beast. Jiang Zhen seemed to have finally found the root of the problem. Other than this reason, he really couldn't think of any other. This world is full of wonders. Lu Jin's face was full of envy. With Di Beichun's appearance, not to mention women, even men couldn't help but praise him. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. A female? Male, Di Beichun said. Lu Jin, even the males are bowing down to your looks, let alone the females. Yang Tianzhao, Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichun, Jiang Zhen nodded. That's right. I've never had such luck. The problem must be here. Yang Tianzhao, you're really good at finding excuses. No matter what, this hidden danger has been resolved. It's all thanks to young Master D. Lu Jin looked at Di Beichun with a smile. If it weren't for your help, we would have been in a lot of trouble. He was most grateful for this. He originally thought that bringing Di Beichun and Jiang Zhen here would be a burden, but the truth was that these two were completely lucky stars. If it weren't for the two of them, they would have lost their lives several times. You're welcome. Di Beichun smiled faintly. If I didn't come with you this time, I wouldn't have been so lucky. Looking at the black totem in his hand, Di Beichun's deep eyes revealed a trace of a smile. But more than that, he was deep in thought. Chapter 7191. After taking off Wu Qing and the other storage rings, the group also received a considerable amount of loot. I didn't expect Wu Qing to have so many things on him, even though he usually doesn't show off. Jiang Zhen looked at the items in his hand. In fact, he also had a lot of cultivation resources. However, at his cultivation level, in order to achieve a breakthrough, cultivation resources were used up extremely quickly. Everyone in the town was familiar with each other, so robbing was naturally impossible. They had to rely on themselves to obtain all the cultivation resources. Now that they had such a large amount of cultivation resources, it was a windfall for them. Young Master D, we didn't do anything. We don't deserve these things. Jiang Zhen felt a little guilty. These things did make them envious. But thinking about it carefully, they should all belong to Di Beichun. Everyone has a share. Di Beichun smiled faintly. We are a team. Hearing this, Jiang Zhen looked at Di Beichun excitedly. From this moment on, Di Beichun was a real boss in his eyes. It was rare to see such a magnanimous person on a normal day. The fear and suspicion in his heart had long disappeared completely during the process of getting along with him. Young Master D, I feel that you have the potential to be a boss. Hearing this, Lu Jinhe looked up at the sky and subconsciously looked at Di Beichun. Jiang Zhen was right. When they set off, Jiang Zhen was the one in charge of the team. However, at some point, the person in charge had become Di Beichun. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Indeed, there are people who follow Beichun and call him boss. As expected, Jiang Zhen said calmly. It's not strange at all. If you stay in our town, you will be the mayor. Will you consider it? I don't have such plans for now. Jiang Zhen, don't even think about it. It won't work. Yang Tianzhao pulled Jiang Zhen aside. He knew very well that some people were destined to be different from others. They usually stayed in the town, so they didn't feel much. However, after seeing Di Beichun, they knew that these two people were not ordinary people. Let alone here, The realm of chaotic immortals was not a place for them to develop. The immortal realm was the only place they should go. Sigh, I'm just fantasizing. Jiang Jun sighed. He had never thought of recognizing someone as his boss. However, after seeing Di Beichun, he couldn't help but have this idea. It was simply too lucky to have such a generous boss. Plus, he had a sister-in-law who could concoct pills. He really envied Di Beichun's little brother. In the future, it would not be a problem for him to have a meteoric rise. Young Master Gong. I heard that He Yin has already left a mark on Master. That guy's pretty fast. Gong Jun smiled faintly. He still couldn't pass through the barrier, right? The power of the barrier is too strong. The reason why we were able to come here was because we had to prepare for a long time before we succeeded. He Yin won't be able to succeed in a short period of time just by relying on his own power. It's fine. Gong Jun was very calm. There are a lot of things that Master hasn't remembered. Even if Black Flame appears, he won't recognize him. Is there still no movement from Black Demon? The man shook his head. Black Demon is still very quiet. It seems that they haven't made any contact with Master. Chapter 7192. Black Killer is too stubborn. Gong Jun shook his head helplessly. It has been many years since it left. Black Sha has always believed that Master will find it. Black Killer's personality isn't as lively as Black Flame's, but this guy is very loyal to Master. Master trusted it the most back then. Lively? The man paused. Maybe Jin Yin is too lively, Gong Jun. That's true. It was good that this fellow appeared later, lest he caused any trouble. This fellow had caused trouble every few days, and they were used to it. The fourth prince and the others have already left. Our people have already lured them away and sent people to protect Master. Master will be fine. Gong Jun nodded slightly. This guy wants to find Master? Dream on. Keep a close eye on what's going on over there. If there's even the slightest news, inform me immediately. Young Master Gong, don't worry. I will never let them threaten Master. The man said hesitantly. Actually, it's not difficult for Master to recover his memory. Why? Gong Jun stared blankly for a moment. Master naturally has his reasons for arranging everything. Don't interfere in this matter. If I find out what else you've done, be careful of your life. Understood, young Master Gong. The man didn't dare to say anything more. This subordinate will definitely not interfere. I wonder what young Master Gong plans to do next. Me? Gong Jun raised his eyebrows. Naturally, I have to find Master. Beichun, is that demonic beast the one we encountered back then? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows revealed a thoughtful expression. She vaguely felt that there was a relationship between the two. Although these two places were very far from each other, and the possibility of coming from any direction was very small, such thoughts kept appearing in his mind, and he couldn't get rid of them. Di Beichun turned his eyes, the corner of his mouth hooked up in a smile. Why do you think so? Intuition. My wife's intuition is really accurate. It's the one we met back then. Is it true? Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. How did it come here? By sensing the tablet. According to it, it's not in the same place as us. There's a barrier that prevents it from approaching, so what appeared just now was only its mental strength. As for where its real body is, I don't know. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang understood. Although the doubts in her heart were still unanswered, at least it explained why it appeared in these two places. It recognized you as its master just now. It said that it has been my contracted beast for a long time, but I have forgotten some things. Have you forgotten something? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. She couldn't help but think of the situation she encountered when she was comprehending the tablet. That voice clearly reminded her not to look for it if she chose to forget. She originally thought that she had encountered such a situation, but she never thought that Di Beichun would be in a similar situation. This was getting more and more puzzling. I don't know what happened, but this guy is so weird. Maybe it remembered wrongly. Di Beichun looked at the black totem in his hand. He still felt that this guy's words were a little strange, and he couldn't think of a connection at all. Maybe. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Has it left already? Chapter 7193. I don't know when it will appear again. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. This guy's strength is stronger than anyone we've encountered. Even though she didn't see it for herself, she could tell that its strength was extremely terrifying from the fact that it could easily kill Wu Qing with only its mental strength. She believed that even Qing Devil wouldn't be a match for this monster. By the way, what's its name? Bailey Hongzhuang asked curiously. Hearing this question, Di Beichen's expression suddenly became strange. What's wrong? Can't I tell you its name? It said its name is Bao Bao. Di Beichen shrugged slightly. It was really awkward to say this name out loud. Bao Bao. Bailey Hongzhuang was also dumbfounded. She always thought that for such a terrifying demonic beast, its name should be incomparably domineering. Thinking about how this guy was so ruthless when it attacked, it was completely unrelated to her baby. Di Beichen nodded. That's right. If you're really its master, then didn't you get it this name? Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly laughed. Di Beichen paused and said calmly, I'm sure it must have mistaken me for someone else. The following situation was much smoother than Lu Jin and the others expected. They thought that they would have to go through many dangers to cross the natural moat, but with Di Beichen around, all the dangers seemed to be automatically reduced. It was a smooth journey, and all the troubles seemed to have hidden themselves. If they didn't clearly remember everything they had experienced before, they would even suspect that the natural moat wasn't dangerous at all. What made them most speechless was that the crocodile river, which they had always been afraid of, was like treading on thin ice every time they crossed it. If they were careless, they would become food for the crocodiles. But this time, when they passed by the crocodile river, the crocodiles were extremely well behaved. They stayed in the water and looked at them respectfully, without any intention of treating them as food. Vaguely, they even perceived a trace of kindness from the attitude of these crocodiles. Kindness? When this thought appeared in their minds, Lu Jin and the others thought that they must be crazy. These ferocious fellows always wanted to overturn their boats and eat them up. Now, they were showing kindness to them. This was simply too scary. However, they felt that Di Beichen was even more terrifying than these crocodiles. Young Master Di, how did you do this? Jiang Zhen looked at Di Beichen in disbelief. The previous situation was already shocking enough. He didn't expect that there was something even more shocking. Why don't you teach us a few moves of skills? In the future, when we come here again, we'll have more trump cards. Not only that, if they could master zzzz, if they can't, TTT did anything. When he first came down, he could feel that these monsters were less aggressive toward him than Lu Jin and the others, but it wasn't to this extent. If he had to say when the situation began to change, it should be after he met Bao Bao. Chapter 7194. Could it be that Bao Bao has such a great influence on these demons? Di Beichen instinctively looked at the black flame in his palm. Apart from this reason, he could not think of any other. With Bao Bao's terrifying strength, it was normal for these demons to be so fearful if it was really here. However, Bao Bao had only left a mark. If that was enough to make these demons change so drastically, then Bao Bao's influence was much greater than he had imagined. Bailey Hongzhuang noticed Di Beichen's expression and could roughly guess what was going on. She had to admit that this situation was very convenient for them. If Bao Bao was really Di Beichen's contracted beast, then they would undoubtedly have another trump card. However, they could not be sure if Bao Bao had mistaken them for someone else. If this fellow really did mistake them for someone else, they did not know if it would fly into a rage out of humiliation. I'm really envious of the dark attribute now. Jiangxin sighed. Usually, everyone talks about how bad dark attribute cultivators are. I even believed it. Now, it seems like it's all prejudice. There was nothing bad about Di Beichen and Bao Bao. On the contrary, both of them were first-rate geniuses. In my opinion, we can try to find a dark attribute cultivator to join our team when we return, Yang Tianzhao suggested. Lu Jin's eyes lit up. That's a good suggestion. We can consider it. Bailey Hongzhuang found it rather funny when she saw the three of them whispering behind them and thinking about where to look. Ever since Bao Bao appeared, the demons here did not attack them at all. Hence, They walked as if they were walking on flat ground. They even displayed their usual speed and were getting closer and closer to the crossing immortal domain. We'll arrive at the crossing immortal domain after we pass through the canyon in front. Lu Jin pointed at the canyon in front of them. The canyon was like a fan. There was an extremely narrow passage in the center that only one person could pass through. The crossing immortal domain has been sealed for many years. The restriction there is actually very powerful. If anyone tries to force their way through this layer of restriction, it's tantamount to courting death. Even an elementary, celestial stage cultivator will definitely die if they touch the restriction. Then how did you trade with them? Although this restriction is strong and comprehensive, there will still be some small gaps. Moreover, the manager of the crossing immortal domain has a certain connection with the immortal domain. After we pass through this canyon, there will be a very small cave entrance. Every time, we will trade there. However, after we arrive, we can only send out a secret signal. They will contact us when they have time. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood. The other party naturally couldn't do business openly. They had to wait for an opportunity. The waiting time varies from 2 hours to a month. We are not sure when they will appear. If they were lucky, they would appear immediately. If they were unlucky, they could only wait here. If you want to enter, I think they will be very against it when they hear the news. I'm afraid there's nothing we can do to help. Lu Jin had a look of regret on his face. They had only made a simple deal, and their friendship was not deep at all. If he wanted the other party to help him with such a favor, there was no way he could do it. Leave the rest to us. It's enough that you can bring us here, Di Beichen said slowly. End of chapter. Chapter 7195. Seeing that Di Beichen was very reasonable, Lu Jin and the others breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, they couldn't help but want to do something for them, but after thinking about it, it seemed that there was nothing they could do to help. In terms of capital to discuss business, Di Beichen was undoubtedly much better than them. Everyone slowly passed through the canyon. While passing through the canyon, Di Beichen also noticed a very powerful restriction in front of them. This restriction was definitely stronger than any restriction they had seen before. Just from the faint fluctuations it emitted, they felt a kind of palpitating feeling, as if even their breathing had become stifled. At this moment, Yang Tianzhao no longer said that he didn't know Di Beichen. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang saved him, his expression was still occasionally twisted, but his attitude was no longer as repulsive as before. Cuckoo! Lu Jin stopped at the back of the canyon. He pretended to be a cuckoo bird and called out a few special melodies before leading everyone to sit down at the side. Next, we just have to wait for news. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and looked at a cave entrance not far away. She also understood that the other party should be making a deal with them from here. What do you plan to do after meeting them? Lu Jin asked with concern. First, we'll see if we can make a deal with them. If the cooperation is successful, that would naturally be the best. But if it isn't, noticing a touch of coldness quietly flashing through Di Beichen's eyes, Lu Jin couldn't help but change his expression and hurriedly said, I've come into contact with those two people. They are very strong. If we really fight, I'm afraid this place will be very dangerous. Not to mention that we may not be able to kill them. The most important thing is that if we make too much noise and attract other people here, it will be terrible. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood Lu Jin's worries. Don't worry, we won't do such a thing unless we have no other choice. We also don't want to affect you. I'm not worried that you will affect us, but that if you do, you won't have a way to go in. Lu Jin had a serious expression on his face. Unknowingly, he had already treated Di Beichen and Li Tianlan as his best friends. He was thinking for them from the bottom of his heart. Although we can see a cave there, we can't go in with our current situation. The only way is in the hands of the two people who do business with me, so it's impossible to force your way in. You have to think carefully about how to persuade them. Then do you know what they are interested in? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. She also understood that if she could persuade the other party, it would undoubtedly be for the best. After entering, they would have one more helper. After all, they knew nothing about the crossing immortal domain. If they barged in directly, it would be very dangerous. Every time we come here to trade, We mainly trade for blood spirit stones because there are very few blood spirit stone mines here. Most of them are devouring spirit stone mines. In the past, when the crossing celestial domain was not sealed, this was a good place and a lucrative job. But ever since it was sealed, their channels to obtain blood spirit stones have become much smaller, so blood spirit stones are very important to them. In addition, medicinal pills are also very important. Yang Tianzhao added, as long as it's something a cultivator needs, they need it because it's not enough for them to be self-sufficient. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. If that's all, then there's no problem. End of chapter. Chapter 7196. We also know that you have no problem in this aspect. Jiangjin laughed. Among us, the two of you are the richest. That's true, but I actually don't know if they have the ability to bring you in. As for how to get out after entering, that's even more troublesome. Lu Jin had a difficult expression. After entering, are you planning to leave after finding the person you're looking for? Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beicheng glanced at each other. A while ago, they had also returned to their families. Xiao Shou had appeared once again and wanted to make a move on their family. Fortunately, Di Xiaofeng was already prepared and didn't let her succeed. However, Xiao Shou had an escape talisman in her hand, so she managed to escape. The moment they knew about the escape talisman, they were even more certain that Xiao Shou had come to the upper realm. In the upper realm, the number of escape talismans was pitifully low. After the celestial realm, the chaotic celestial realm, and the crossing celestial realm, Xiao Shou would most likely appear in the crossing celestial realm. However, based on Xiao Shou's ability to come and go as she pleased, it would take them some effort to find her even if they entered the crossing celestial realm. I'm afraid it won't be easy for us to find the person we're looking for. We should spend some time inside. You don't have to worry about us. Once we're done, we'll find a way to leave, Bailey Hongzhuang said. Lu Jin nodded slightly. Since that's the case, we won't wait for you outside. Okay, do you still remember the route you'll take? This is the safest route. After saying this, Lu Jin suddenly felt that his words were a little redundant. Based on how Di Beicheng was walking in the heavenly moat as if it was flat ground, no matter which route he took, he wouldn't be in any danger. Lu Jin, you're really wishy-washy now. Young Master Di is so powerful. Why do you need to worry about him? Jiang Zhen looked at Lu Jin in disdain. He didn't realize that this guy was so wishy-washy. Lu Jin coughed dryly. He's my son's savior. What's wrong with being concerned about him? Come on. After a round of discussion, Bailey Hongzhuang and Gu Shijiu understood that it was best to lure them with benefits. As long as the other party had a way and the benefits they offered were enticing enough, the other party should agree. Next, Di Beicheng and the rest began to wait outside. No one knew when the people inside would appear. In fact, because their journey had been too easy, they had arrived much earlier than usual. It was inevitable that they would have to wait for a few more days. While they were waiting, Gongjun had already appeared in the heavenly moat. Normally, he was extremely timid, but when he walked in this natural chasm, he was extremely calm. All the demons retreated when they saw him, directly opening up a wide path for him. Unknowingly, half a month had passed. Bailey Hongzhuang had been cultivating in peace while waiting for the movement inside. During this period of time, it was too quiet inside. There wasn't even the slightest bit of movement. Ta. At this moment, they vaguely heard the sound of footsteps. Hearing this sound, everyone exited their cultivation state and hurriedly looked towards the entrance of the cave. Ta. The sound of the footsteps was getting closer and closer. Everyone looked at each other and began to think of what to say next. You're here. A low and rough voice slowly sounded from the back of the cave. End of chapter. Chapter 7197. Hearing this familiar voice, Lu Jin and the others took a few steps forward. Big Brother G, we're here. You're early this time. The man's indifferent voice sounded. Unlike Lu Jin and the others' friendliness, he appeared quite cold. The journey was smooth this time, so we arrived early. Soon, two figures appeared. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the two figures in front of her. Lu Jin had already introduced them to her in detail. The middle-aged man in the lead was called Ji Chuan, and he was a steward here. The other young man, with a protruding mouth and ape-like cheeks, was Gu Jian. Ji Chuan was a steady person and didn't talk much. Gu Jian, on the other hand, was very much like a businessman. He was the one who negotiated the price every time. In fact, they didn't like Gu Jian because he was too shrewd. Every time, he would maximize the benefits. Unfortunately, they weren't good at negotiating, so they always suffered losses in this aspect. They felt helpless about this, but there was no other way. Why have you changed your people? Ji Chuan couldn't help but frown when he noticed Di Beichun and Lu Jin behind Lu Jin. Something happened to Su Shun, and he's now dead. We're not strong enough to rely on just the three of us, so we recruited 2 people, Lu Jin explained. Ji Chuan nodded slightly. He wasn't the least bit interested in how Su Shin died. His gaze only lingered on Di Beichun and Lu Jin for a moment. At a glance, he could tell that these 2 were quite extraordinary. At least, when they stood together with Lu Jin and the others, they were like cranes in a flock of chickens. No matter how he looked at them, they were a bit out of place. Therefore, he felt that the situation was a bit strange. I don't care about your business, but since this is a long-term business, you'd better find someone you can trust, Ji Chuan calmly reminded them. Di Beichun and the others were all smart people. Even if it was just a sentence, they understood the deeper meaning behind it. Big Brother Ji, don't worry. We won't make any mistakes. That's good. Have you brought the things? Ji Chuan asked. I brought them all. Lu Jin took out his Chinquan bag. Just like last time, the blood spirit stones are all here. It's already been a year, and the market has changed. Isn't it a little inappropriate to still use the same price as last year? Gu Jian's voice rang out. He glanced at Lu Jin with some displeasure, but his gaze was more focused on Bailey Hongzhuang. Big Brother Gu, it's only been a year. You just raised the price the last time. Don't tell me you're going to raise it again this time. Lu Jin's expression was a little ugly. Almost every time he saw Gu Jian, this guy would have such thoughts. If it weren't for the fact that they still had to rely on this business, he really didn't want to bother with this annoying guy. It's only natural for business to get better and better with each passing year. How could it get worse and worse with each passing year? Gu Jian looked indifferent. Don't think that we don't know anything about the outside world just because we're in the crossing immortal domain. In my opinion, the market outside is not bad. You guys are earning more. Not at all. Jiang Zhen hurriedly said, Big Brother Gu, the business outside is not good now. Su Shun even lost his life. We've earned a lot of money with the price rising year after year. Don't pretend to be pitiful. I didn't raise the price that much. You should know that we're taking a big risk. Chapter 7198. When Bailey Hongzhuang saw Gu Jian's expression, she understood what Lu Jin meant. He was truly afraid of this guy. This guy was undoubtedly profit-driven. He was relying on the fact that he had devouring spirit stones to raise the price at will. The market outside hasn't been good these past few years. Plus, we can't let news of what happened in the crossing immortal region spread. It's already hard enough for us to keep this a secret. We don't dare to sell devouring spirit stones in a high-profile manner, so the price has naturally been affected, said Bailey Hongzhuang. When Bailey Hongzhuang spoke, Gu Jian's interest was piqued. I didn't expect this young lady to be so good at talking. However, I'm afraid these words aren't enough to swindle me. But since you're so beautiful, I can consider it. Lu Jin and the others subconsciously looked at Di Beichun. As men, they naturally understood the meaning behind Gu Jian's gaze. Di Beichun's eyes narrowed, and his eyes, which were as deep as the sea, became even more bottomless. He took a step forward, and his calm face did not reveal any emotional fluctuations. Aside from devouring spirit stones, we have another business deal we wish to do with the 2 of you. The rewards are quite generous. Would you be interested? Both Ji Chuan and Gu Jian were surprised. What business deal? We want to enter the crossing immortal region. Ji Chuan and Lu Jin's expressions changed. Kid, I'm afraid you don't know enough about the crossing immortal region. Not just anyone can enter this place. We know. That's why we want to do business with you. Impossible, said Ji Chuan coldly. We'll pay you handsomely. Not only will we give you blood spirit stones, but we'll also give you medicinal pills. Di Beichun did not pay attention to the other party's refusal, and continued to speak of his own price. We can guarantee that we will never reveal half a word about your situation. How much? Asked Gu Jian. Gu Jian. Ji Chuan reprimanded him, his face filled with displeasure. It's even more abundant than all the blood spirit stones you've brought with you this time. We don't need spirit-devouring stones. We just want to go in, Di Beichun said. You should know that the entrance to the Crossing Celestial Region has been sealed. No one from the Crossing Celestial Region is allowed to leave. Similarly, no one is allowed to enter, Gu Jian said slowly. Of course I've heard of this news, but there are always exceptions to everything. Just like this spirit-devouring stone business, everything is negotiable. Di Beichun's face was filled with a confident smile. From a moment that Gu Jian did not immediately refuse him, he understood that this matter was not without discussion. It was just that he needed to reach the price that the other party needed. You're smart, but you should know that our business is done in secret. As long as we're careful, others won't be able to find any clues. But 2 living people went in without any reason. We have the face change pill, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Hearing this, Ji Chuan and Gu Jian looked at each other with uncertainty. I believe that you two will have a way. Di Beichun took out his Cosmos pouch. This is your reward. You can take a look. Gu Jian took the Cosmos pouch. After glancing at it, his eyes lit up. The reward was even more generous than he'd imagined. He really didn't expect these 2 youngsters to be so rich. It still won't work. Ji Chuan's face was ashen. This was simply too risky. If they weren't careful, they'd both lose their lives. However, Gu Jian quietly pulled Ji Chuan to the side. End of chapter. Chapter 7199. Gu Jian, you should know that we can't do this. Once word gets out, we'll be finished. Ji Chuan's face was gloomy and filled with displeasure. Gu Jian had always been the type of person who couldn't move when he saw money, but he hadn't thought about the price of this. Big brother Ji, don't get angry. Let me explain, Gu Jian chuckled. What else is there to say? Those 2 are so young, and they aren't that strong, but they have quite a bit of wealth. The way I see it, they aren't even in the same group as Lu Jin's group. Lu Jin just brought them here after paying them. We can agree to take their things. Once we're in, we can do whatever we want with them. Gu Jian smiled. Think about it. They've already paid us so handsomely, so there's no need to even mention what they have on them. Once we get our hands on those cultivation resources, we might be able to grow even stronger. Hearing this, Ji Chuan's frown gradually relaxed. Won't there be repercussions if we do this? Don't tell me the 2 of us aren't strong enough to beat them. That's just too ridiculous. Gu Jian was extremely confident. We don't often run into fat sheep like them. Haven't you been in trouble recently? Perhaps this is an opportunity given to us by the heavens. It'd be a pity if we don't seize it. Hesitation flashed through Ji Chuan's eyes, but in the end he nodded. All right, then we'll do as you say. It's best if Lu Jin and the others don't find out about this, lest new problems crop up. Don't worry, big brother Ji. I know what to do. Gu Jian patted his chest, his smile growing increasingly smug. But that woman... Noticing Gu Jian's expression, Ji Chuan understood what he was thinking. He said helplessly, You can play, but don't cause trouble. No problem. Gu Jian rubbed his hands, his eyes filled with desire. He'd never seen such a beautiful woman before. Thinking about how he'd have to kill her soon, he felt it was a bit of a pity. However, there was nothing else he could do. Not long after, Ji Chuan and Gu Jian returned. We can consider accepting your business, but you have to tell us why you want to enter the immortal region. We want to find someone. Looking for someone? Most of the ascended cultivators are in the Crossing Celestial Domain, Di Beichun said calmly. Ji Chuan and Gu Jian also understood. They had been here for a long time, so it wasn't like they hadn't seen this kind of thing before. Many people's relatives would come to the Crossing Immortal Domain after they ascended. However, it was rare for these 2 people to dare to come here. All right, I agree, Gu Jian said. Hearing this, Lu Jin and the others were involuntarily stunned. From the way they saw it, this was an extremely crazy request. It was unlikely that the Ji Chuan duo would agree to it. However, the situation was much better than what they had expected. The 2 of them agreed without much consideration, which made them feel very strange. Gu Jian also realized that his promise was a little too simple and said, "After you go in, you have to listen to us. It just so happens that some of our people died. You can disguise yourself as them, and you must be careful not to be discovered by others. Do you understand?" End of chapter. Chapter 7200. Boss, wait for me. Understood. Deep Baicha nodded. We definitely won't be discovered by others. Gu Jian nodded, revealing a satisfied expression. Ji Chuan's expression was still calm. Just follow us. Because of Di Baichen's resources, Gu Jian didn't continue to raise the price. After all, he couldn't raise the price by much. It wasn't as lucrative as these two fat sheep. All right, you can follow us in now, Ji Chuan said slowly. Wait a moment. Lu Jin stepped forward with a smile on his face. I have a few words to say to them. Please wait a moment. Ji Chuan frowned. Hurry up. Lu Jin pulled Di Baichen and Yang Zhao to the back. Gu Jin agreed a little too quickly this time. There must be something fishy going on. I think you should be careful. That's right. Gu Jian isn't a good person. Seeing you take out so many things, he must be tempted. Since he agreed so quickly and didn't even have the slightest intention of asking for a price, it's very likely that he's planning to catch us all in one fell swoop. Yang Tianzhao had a worried expression. He usually didn't want to deal with Gu Jian, but he could see that this guy was definitely someone who would ask for a sky-high price. His sudden change in attitude meant that there was a big problem in itself. Most importantly, he knew what Gu Jian's gaze meant when he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. This time, it wouldn't be so simple. Be careful of Gu Jian. He's much more troublesome than Ji Chuan, Jiangjin said. Looking at the three's worried expressions, Di Baichen nodded slightly. A cold light flashed in his eyes. We understand. Don't worry. We'll act according to the situation. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Seeing that the two didn't intend to give up, Lu Jin nodded. He understood that no matter what kind of danger they faced, they wouldn't be able to stop them. However, with their strength, they should have a way. Then take care of yourselves. If you come back in the future, you must pay us a visit. We definitely will. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Yang Zhao returned, Ji Chuan said, Can we go now? Sure. However, just as the two of them entered, a voice rang out from behind. Boss, wait for me. Almost as soon as Ji Chuan closed the hole, a round figure squeezed in. The sudden turn of events was beyond everyone's expectations. Lu Jin and the others who were outside were dumbfounded. They didn't even have time to react when they suddenly saw a figure rush in. Who was that? Lu Jin could not help but be startled. He had only vaguely noticed a figure rushing in, but he did not even get a clear look at the person's appearance. I don't know. Jiang Zhen looked confused. But didn't Mrs. D say that young Master D has a little brother? This guy was shouting boss as he rushed in. Could he be that person? This guy's appearance is really strange. Yang Tianzhao rubbed his nose with a complicated expression. If it's really young Master D's men, then that's not bad. I keep having the feeling that Gu Jian and the others are up to no good. One more person means one more guarantee. I hope so. Lu Jin nodded. Other than this possibility, they really couldn't think of any other possibility. After all, it was impossible for people from the crossing immortal domain to appear outside. End of chapter. Chapter 7201. Dead for sure. Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang were astonished when they heard the voice. When they turned around and saw Gong Jun appear behind them, their expressions became even stranger. Gong Jun, when did you get here? Boss, sister-in-law, I finally found you. Gong Jun narrowed his eyes with a happy expression. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen looked at each other. Didn't this guy say that he was going to stay in Shiyun City to manage the Immortal Treasure Pavilion? How did he suddenly appear here? Most importantly, how did this guy find this place? Luckily, I was fast, otherwise I would have been locked outside. Gong Jun said excitedly. What's going on? Ji Chuan's expression became gloomy. This guy's sudden appearance was clearly beyond their expectations. This guy was clearly a variable that ruined their plan. Even though Di Baichen and Ji Chuan still had a lot of doubts about Gong Jun, the most important thing right now was to deal with Ji Chuan and Ji Chuan. They could only put their doubts aside for now. He's our friend. Di Beichen replied. We only agreed to let the two of you in. We didn't agree to let this guy in. Gu Jian said coldly. Since you're already here, then forget it. We'll provide you with the resources you need. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. Gong Jun's sudden appearance was out of everyone's expectations. However, this wasn't a bad thing. If they were together, they could take care of each other. Hearing this, Ji Chuan and Gu Jian's expressions were still unhappy, but they didn't continue to object. Boss, what's going on? Gong Jun had a curious look on his face. Di Beichen gave Gong Jun a meaningful glance. Gong Jun closed his mouth and looked at the two people in front of him. Big Brother Ji, what should we pay attention to after entering the crossing immortal domain? Di Beichen looked around and asked. There are many cultivators in the crossing celestial domain. Most of them have yet to break through to the elementary celestial stage. Most of them are in the spirit devouring mine. Their main job is to mine. Other than that, there are also a few other factions, all of which are long-established factions. This time, you're going to pretend to be the cultivators in the spirit devouring mine. They lost their lives a while ago, so you shouldn't be discovered if you pretend to be them. I wonder if it's convenient for us to find someone in this spirit devouring mine. That will depend on your own abilities. If your luck is good, you can still find it. I heard that you can't stay in the spirit devouring mine for too long. If you stay in it for too long, your spiritual power will decline. Bailey Hongzhuang pretended to be puzzled and asked. Those are just rumors. You will understand after entering the spirit devouring mine. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two exchanged glances. Their hearts were filled with disdain. They knew the situation in the spirit devouring mine very well. It seemed like these two fellows were planning to throw them into the spirit devouring mine again. However, it was not that easy to do so. Find a suitable place later and kill the two of them. Di Beichen sent a voice transmission. Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned when she heard that. She did not expect Di Beichen to kill the two of them directly. If we kill them, we won't know the situation here. It will be easier for us to find someone if we pretend to be them. Di Beichen's eyes were cold. His killing intent was boiling in his heart. He had already made up his mind when he saw Gu Jian looking at Hongzhuang. This guy will definitely die. End of chapter. Chapter 7202. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. That's a good idea, but we'll have to be careful with our disguises. As the manager of this place, Ji Chuan must have come into contact with a lot of people. They didn't know anything about these two, yet they had to pretend to be them, so they had to be careful. Otherwise, they would be exposed. There will be a way. Di Beichen said confidently. Gong Jun noticed his boss's expression and had a guess in his heart. Under the guidance of Ji Chuan and Gu Jian, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two found that the road was getting more and more remote, so they had an idea. When they reached a very remote place where others wouldn't notice, Di Beichen took the lead and stopped. It's very safe here. A low and magnetic voice sounded. Hearing this voice, Ji Chuan and Gu Jian couldn't help but turn around and look at Di Beichen with a complicated expression. No need to go any further. If there's anything to solve it here. Bailey Hongzhuang also said. At this moment, Ji Chuan and Gu Jian couldn't help but be startled. They immediately understood that these fellows had already guessed their plans. Now that they actually dared to take the initiative to say such words, it was likely that these three fellows were already prepared. What do you mean by that? Gu Jian asked, feigning ignorance. What do I mean? Di Beichen's lips curled up, and he threw out a punch at lightning speed. I want you dead. Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Jun didn't expect Di Beichen to directly attack without saying anything, but after realizing it, the two also rushed up, suddenly taking a punch. Gu Jian's expression became very ugly. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. You dare to attack me, boy, you're courting death. Bang! Di Beichen didn't even bother to pay attention to him, and coolly kicked out with his leg. Gu Jian's body fell heavily to the ground, and his face suddenly became a bit paler. The first move could be said to be a sneak attack, but the second move could still easily hit him. It was clear that the other party's strength was not weaker than his. Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Jun attacked Ji Chuan together. According to Lu Jin's introduction, Ji Chuan seemed to be stronger than Gu Jian. Since they had decided to take action, they naturally couldn't leave anyone alive. Ji Chuan was also aware of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two's plan. He originally thought that the other party was a small sheep that could be easily dealt with, but he didn't expect that the other party also had the idea of killing them. Bang, bang, bang. The essence power in Bailey Hongzhuang's body surged out, and the charged-up attack was launched without any hesitation. What they wanted was a quick victory, and a sneak attack was the most convenient method. Ji Chuan's figure flashed and dodged, but he didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang had already discovered his trajectory and ruthlessly punched him. Boom! With a strike of her hand, Bailey Hongzhuang took advantage of Ji Chuan's body and pinched his chin with one hand and stuffed a pill into his mouth. Ji Chuan wanted to spit out the pill, but Bailey Hongzhuang pinched his chin and didn't give him any chance. "What did you feed me?" Ji Chuan's face was gloomy as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, and his eyes were full of resentment. "Big brother Ji, we've already reached this point. Why are you still asking such an idiotic question?" Bailey Hongzhuang ridiculed. Ji Chuan's heart turned cold, and his killing intent surged. "I'll kill you all. I'm afraid you don't have the ability." Bailey Hongzhuang attacked again and kicked Ji Chuan to the mountain wall. End of chapter. Chapter 7203. Ji Chuan was indeed in the elementary celestial stage, but after this exchange, Bailey Hongzhuang understood that the other party had not fought for a long time, and his combat strength was not comparable to an ordinary elementary celestial stage cultivator. She had not broken through to the elementary celestial stage for long, but it was obvious that the other party was not her match. However, this was a good thing, as it saved them so much effort. Sister-in-law is really amazing. Gong Jun maintained the posture of a younger brother as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a face full of worship. He wanted to take the opportunity to sneak attack, but he found that after the first move, the rest did not need his help at all. Sister-in-law had already solved all of it, neat and tidy, without the slightest hesitation. The corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly, and she noticed that there was no other movement around. Presumably, no one had noticed them, so she was relieved and turned to look at Di Beichen. Both of them were stunned when they saw what was inside, because Gu Jian was almost beaten into a pile of mud by Di Beichen. At this moment, he was lying limply on the ground, with blood from his nose and teeth mixed together. His miserable appearance was simply unbearable to look at. Gong Jun swallowed a mouthful of saliva. What kind of hatred and resentment did he have? Stop! Stop! Gu Jian panted heavily, hoping that Di Beichen could stop. "Boss, this guy will die if you continue to beat him." Gong Jun could not help but speak up. After following Boss for so long, he had never seen Boss like this. It seemed that this Gu Jian was really not an ordinary hateful person to be able to make Boss so angry. Only then did Di Beichen stop. His handsome face did not have the slightest bit of ferociousness, and his cloud-like appearance made it impossible to connect him with what he had just done. Gu Jian was finally able to breathe a sigh of relief, lying on the ground and almost unable to get up. "What do you want to do?" On the side, Ji Chuan had already been tied up by Gong Jun. "Do you know Xiao So?" Di Beichen asked, at the same time taking out a portrait. "Never heard of her," Ji Chuan replied, but when he saw the person in the portrait, his expression changed for a moment. Di Beichen also caught the change in Ji Chuan's expression and said, "You've seen her, right?" "Don't tell him." Gu Jian's weak voice came from the side. As soon as he said that, Di Beichen raised his right hand, and a sword light flashed, directly piercing through Gu Jian's forehead. "Now you can speak." Di Beichen's voice was indifferent. Ji Chuan's eyes widened. Although he had anticipated that something like this would happen, seeing Gu Jian die with his own eyes was still very hard for him to accept. "Even if I say it, I will still die. Why should I say it?" "Indeed." Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. "But you can choose a faster way to die." Noticing the quick-wittedness and craftiness in the woman's eyes, Ji Chuan felt a chill from the bottom of his heart. He knew that this woman must be an alchemist, and did not doubt the truth of her words. "I think I've seen this woman before, but she's not called by that name." "What's her name now?" "I don't know." What are you usually responsible for? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Since they were going to disguise themselves as Ji Chuan and Ji Chuan, they had to know what they usually did to avoid being exposed. Someone is coming from behind, Ji Chuan suddenly said. Hearing this voice, the three subconsciously turned their heads, but found no one behind them. End of chapter. Chapter 72:04. When the three of them turned around again, Ji Chuan had already taken the opportunity to bite the snake and commit suicide. Seeing this, the three of them couldn't help but sigh. It was truly a pity. Since you don't want to talk, then die in peace. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her right hand slightly and controlled a strand of spiritual energy. If one took a closer look, they would discover that this was a miniature version of Ji Chuan. A flame appeared between the woman's slender fingers, burning the ball of mental energy. The shrunken version of Ji Chuan immediately screamed. He hurriedly said, "Let me live, and I'll tell you everything I know." "No need." Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. "I never give people a second chance." The flames suddenly increased in intensity, evaporating the spiritual energy into nothingness. "Master, wouldn't it be a pity to kill him just like that?" Xiao He asked hesitantly. "There's nothing to feel pity about. He already hates us to death. Even if he tells us, it might not be the truth. Rather than being misled by the other party's lies, it would be safer for them to explore on their own. Sister-in-law is right. These two fellows are so cunning. They will definitely cause trouble." Gong Jun nodded repeatedly. "However, I think what the old guy said before should be true. He really did see the person you're looking for." "That's right." Di Beichen's eyes darkened. They had always thought that Xiao So might have been here, and now it was proven that their judgment was not wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang took out the corpse-dissolving water and cleaned up the two corpses. She then looked at their storage rings and smiled faintly. They didn't have many cultivation resources, but they did have a lot of devouring spirit stones. The effect of the spirit devouring stone was to increase one's mental strength. Increasing one's mental strength was of great help to a cultivator. However, it was not enough to increase one's mental strength alone. "Let's go." Di Beichen took the appearance change pill and changed into Ji Chuan's appearance, while Bailey Hongzhuang changed into Gu Jian's appearance. Gong Jun looked at the tacit understanding between the two of them and then looked at himself. "Boss, you both changed. What about me?" "Let's talk about it when we find a suitable candidate," Di Beichen said. Currently, they didn't know much about the crossing immortal domain. They didn't even know about Ji Chuan's daily habits, words, and actions. It wouldn't be easy for them to disguise themselves. Logically speaking, there should be people continuously ascending here. You can just pretend to be a cultivator who has just ascended. Gong Jun nodded slightly. "That's good too. I feel more comfortable looking at myself like this." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. It had to be said that their disguises did make them uncomfortable. "By the way, boss, you were so ruthless to Gu Jian just now. Is it because he has some bad intentions towards sister-in-law?" Gong Jun moved to Di Beichen's side with curiosity written all over his face. Di Beichen glanced at him indifferently. Bailey Hongzhuang said, "Gong Jun, don't make wild guesses. Gu Jian is a sly guy. You can't believe what he says." "Sister-in-law, there's something you don't know." Gong Jun chuckled. "It's not like we haven't met a sly old man like him. Have you ever seen Boss so angry?" Chapter 72:05. "Boss, am I right?" Gong Jun teased. Di Beichen looked at the curious Gong Jun. "Why don't you tell me how you got here? I stayed in Xian City for a while. I didn't find it interesting when all of you weren't around. Moreover, I noticed that someone was looking for you. I was worried about your safety, so I came here. Someone was looking for us." Gong Jun nodded slightly. "I only found out about this later on. It wasn't until someone asked about you that the news reached me." "Boss, do you remember Qing Ji, whom you killed in Level Peak City?" "I remember." Di Beichen nodded. "Her people came for revenge. That should be the case." Gong Jun nodded. "Qing Ji came from the Immortal Region, so those people came from the Immortal Region as well. When I sensed that something was wrong, I went into hiding. However, with their methods, I felt that it was only a matter of time before they found you. I was worried that you would be in danger, so I came to warn you." Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood. Then how did you cross the heavenly moat? When I passed by the town, I saw an immortal treasure pavilion. I knew that you must have been there. The people in the town were very friendly too. When they found out that I was with you, they told me. Speaking of which, it was strange. They said that the heavenly moat was very dangerous, but I don't think it was as dangerous as they said. The people in the town told you so easily. Of course it wasn't that easy. However, I have my ways. Gong Jun smiled awkwardly. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't ask any more questions. However, she already knew what was going on. This fella always had a way of dealing with people. With his methods of gathering information and his relationship with them, it wasn't difficult for him to find out everything from the people in the town. Hey, boss, you're changing the topic. Gong Jun suddenly remembered that his boss hadn't answered his question. However, Di Baichen had already walked forward and ignored the question. Seeing this, Gong Jun winked at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "It's a silent agreement, Bailey Hongzhuang." As the three of them walked forward, they had already come up with an excuse. If the other party didn't ask, they didn't have to answer. If they did, they would say that they were new miners. There were many cultivators mining in the crossing immortal domain. One more person should not attract too much attention. Fortunately, this road led out and there weren't many forks, so there was no need to worry about going the wrong way. After walking for a while, they realized that this cave was really remote. Even Ji Chuan and Ji Yi had to spend quite a bit of time to get here. It's no wonder that no one has discovered this place, even after doing business for so many years. Normally, very few people would come to this place. Gong Jun looked around. This was a desolate place where few people would come. That's good. The fewer people who know about this place, the better. Bailey Hongzhuang said, but if we kill Ji Chuan and Lu Jin, what will happen to their business in the future? They'll find someone else to take their place. Di Baichen said, if that's the case, then that's for the best. They don't want to deal with Gu Jian anymore. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Lu Jin and the others were already very tired of dealing with Gu Jian. Unfortunately, they didn't have any other choice. If they could find someone reliable to take over, it would indeed be a good thing. It wasn't until they had walked a certain distance that they saw traces of people. Chapter 7206. One after another, familiar yet unfamiliar minds appeared in front of the three of them. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Jinjin were no strangers to the spirit-devouring mine. Back then, being forced to mine was something that left a deep impression on them. However, the mines in front of them were much larger than the ones they were in back then. As the two of them walked closer, they noticed that many cultivators were shuttling back and forth in the mines. Their eyes were filled with despair and helplessness, but most of them were numb. Hurry up and get to work. If you can't complete today's task, you'll be punished. The supervisor stood at the entrance of the mine with a whip in his hand and scolded fiercely. Meanwhile, the figures walked into the mine like puppets without souls. Gong Jun was speechless when he saw this. Aren't these guys a little too cruel? There's no spirit-devouring mine in the chaotic immortal realm, so you don't know much about this situation. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. They had experienced this before, but the entire crossing immortal realm was like this. It was undoubtedly very difficult to change everything. Previously, I didn't understand why the immortal realm closed the entrance to the crossing immortal realm. Now, I completely understand. They simply couldn't find suitable people to mine here, so they simply kept all the ascended cultivators here as slaves to mine. Gong Jun looked at this scene with a frown. No matter who it was, they would be shocked when they saw this. Xiao Sou can travel between the crossing immortal realm and the upper realm. I'm sure her identity here is not bad. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Ji Chuan was sure that Xiao Sou had been here before, so it was easy to deduce many things. Fortunately, they were pretending to be Ji Chuan and Di Jinjin. With the identity of the supervisor, it was undoubtedly more convenient for them to do things. Ji Chuan, you're back. A middle-aged man walked up to Ji Chuan with a familiar smile on his face. Yes, Di Baichen said. The man pulled Ji Chuan to the side and said in a low voice, How is it? Is the deal done? Upon hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen's expressions changed. The man didn't look like he was trying to trick them. Instead, He looked like he really knew about this matter. It seemed that Ji Chuan wasn't the only one who knew about this transaction. It was just that each time this matter was handled by the two of them. Di Beichun pondered for a moment and said in a deep voice, "We'll talk about it when we get back." The man smiled and nodded. "All right, I'll look for you tonight." "All right, where did this kid come from?" Just as the man was about to leave, he noticed Gong Jun behind him, and a look of doubt appeared in his eyes. "Mining," Bailey Hongzhuang said nonchalantly. Hearing this, the man looked at Gong Jun and said with a smile, "Your luck is really good. It just so happens that the quota for the mine can be filled. This month, our team's results may not be as good as yours." "That's not necessarily the case," Di Beichun said with a calm face. "You really have the same temper as before. Even when you say this kind of thing, you still look so serious." The man shook his head helplessly and waved his hand as he walked away. After the man left, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two sighed in relief. At least from the man's reaction, they didn't reveal anything. "Boss, do I really have to go mining?" Gong Jun's face fell. "I don't want to go mining." End of chapter.